Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is July the 2nd of 2025. I am Nick here with Quinn, and it's a manga day. Good day, manga day.
Is it any other days?
No other days are as good as manga day.
Oh, okay. So, like, colloquially, people would call this like hump day, but that pales in comparison to manga day, is what you're suggesting.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Wednesday, we don't need any days named after the Norse god Odin. It's manga day now. There we go.
Is that what Wednesday is named after, Odin?
Woden's Day. Wednesday, yeah.
Okay.
So,
but what if I'm in Spanish and I'm Miércoles?
Then that would be after Mercury.
Wait, are all the days named after gods?
Yeah.
Wow.
So some of them come from the Norse gods and some of them come from the Greek gods, and there's kind of a mix between them, depending on the language you use. For every language that like originates from, like Germanic or Roman. So yeah.
Huh. What about Domingo?
So lunes comes from Luna, the moon. Sunday is the sun, obviously. Tuesday is oh gosh, which one is that? It's like Tears Day. I forget that.
That's Martes in Spanish. I always remember because it sounds like my dad. Oh,
Martes is Mars.
I meant Marty for my dad.
Well, he's also pretty good. But...
Is he? I have some trauma I need to unpack with you, Nick.
Anyway, Jueves is Jupiter and Viernes is Venus. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's good then. I'm now educated. Unfortunately, I already learned my one thing I can learn today. So unfortunately, that information is going to have to be discarded. But you get to surprise me again with it. So that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
What we're talking about today has nothing to do with any of that.
It rarely does.
I don't think they even discuss what day of the week it ever is in this series, come to think of it.
Well, presumably a school day, because a lot of it takes place during schools or at schools.
Not Saturday or Sunday. That much we know.
Honestly, it could be another alternate title for the manga if they really like it. They're like, doesn't take place Saturday or Sunday, except when it does. Asterisk.
So this is a bit of a different thing. I know that we had announced that we were going to be covering the manga adaptation of Neon Genesis Evangelion. That is still the plan, but while we're working our way through that, a little opportunity came by us. That is why we're talking about another series today called I Wanna Be Your Girl, which we have a review copy of, and we're kindly provided a review copy by Random House Graphic, which is a graphic novel and manga department of Penguin Random House.
Yes. This is, to be very clear, not sponsored. We are not being paid to discuss this series. It was just presented to us as an opportunity. Would you like an advanced copy? Because this is a series that is getting simulpublished now. Not simulpublished. It's getting published now with an English release.
Yes, in fact, the first volume comes out tomorrow. So if we talk about this and you decide you want to check it out, you can go through Random House Graphic in order to get a copy of that. This is a series which is about a couple of girls. One is named Hime, and she's had a crush on her best friend Akira for a really long time. But she has known Akira as a boy up until they turn like 12, at which point she learns that Akira identifies as a girl and decides on their first day of high school that she wants to start publicly identifying as a girl. And the series is about Hime having to figure out how she can best support her friend during her days in high school, when a lot of people don't really understand her, while also dealing with her own feelings for Akira and how that is complicated by the everything of the situation.
Yes. There's a tremendous aspect to this. I think its tagline is like, when does how do you help somebody, or let me see if I can get the exact quote they used there. But the series is primarily about the challenge. What does it mean to protect the ones we love? How do you try to, as someone who sort of looks at Akira as someone to protect, how do you protect them from a situation like publicly identifying as a different gender than the one you were born with? And it's an interesting question that's explored. I mean, this is only one volume, and there's actually a surprising amount of like content through in this. Like, I think there's like 4 or 5 different like pretty heavy conversations about gender identity and how best to approach being like sort of an ally and a lot of different things. But I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit. Nick, what did you think of this series?
I liked it. I was kind of worried in a couple of respects when going through it. One is being the cis one of the two of us. I feel as though it's a little bit of an odd situation to encounter a series where the protagonist is not the one who transitions, and it is the deuteragonist, the one that is the object of their friendship or the object of their affections, that is the one transitioning. This is definitely a series more, at least in the first volume, about being an ally than it is about being trans. You don't get a whole lot of a look into Akira's head throughout this first volume. This is a series that ran from like 2018 to 2020 when it was being published online. It's now completed its run, and this volume composes about a quarter to a fifth of the whole run. So I don't know how much more we get to know Akira as a person, but I did think it was a little bit weird to have that as like, oh, and this is the way that this is going to affect you, the non-trans person. Like, how does this affect you? And I've tried to be aware of that in terms of, not just present company, but other people around me have transitioned in their lives, and I've learned lessons through that in terms of what to do and what not to do. And I do think it's good to have a series like this, which is very basic and optimistic in its depiction, but has, like you said, some very good lessons about how to approach the subject in a supportive way, in a way that is actually beneficial, having not just your heart in the right place, but also being wise about the way that you do it. But it was a little bit weird to me to go, oh, so the main character is the one who's not going through the change themselves.
Well, it's worth noting that the main character, Hime, I guess, I would say this is still sort of a deuteragonist situation, but her conflict is, it's not even just completely like, how does she be a helpful ally to her friend who is going through this significant change. It's, how does she deal with the fact that she has a lot of unexplored feelings towards this person, and she absolutely has sort of a crush that she just hasn't really managed to work all the way through, and that is then informing all of her decisions. So she is the first person, like, the second anyone says anything even remotely incorrect or inappropriate to Akira, she is immediately up in their face, like, you want to go? Let's do it right now. I'll fight you in the parking lot. Like, let's fight. And I do believe that we are meant to understand that while Hime's heart is in a great place there, she's trying to protect her friend, she is doing more harm than good a lot of the time with her actions. I love the side character of just the super cool wise teacher who has
I want to be him. Like,
he just kind of walks by and is like, hey, let me solve your problem for you with some sage advice, and then he'll just keep on going. and like every time you're like, that was really good advice to offer up at that point. Like in the first chapter, not to spoil too much of this, because we would like you to go in and kind of read this at your own, but one of the first things that he kind of explores, just like Hime, by drawing so much more attention to it every time someone says something, you're actually just prolonging how long it's going to be before people start to just see that this is normal. Like, you're actually not helping things so much right now.
By making a big hubbub. Also, importantly, not letting Akira deal with the situation herself.
Yes.
Which I do really like. There was one about 2/3 of the way through this volume that I really, really loved, where he takes a very measured approach with her. He kind of like, it's implied that he did this, he made a mistake on purpose by like, the coffee that I got was very sweet and I take mine plain, here, you can drink it. And so he like gets her to sit down on a bench with him so that he can talk to her about the situation. And he brings up a lot of good points in terms of like, look, you're like 14, you don't even know yourself right now, and yet you're basically being the arbiter of how everyone should be treating your friend. And I know that you are trying to be a good ally to her, but you do need to actually think about what that means. And also at the same time, you should think about, what kind of person you want to be. This is a formative time for you. And he doesn't say this outright, but it was definitely a thing that I very much related to, which is that when someone is going through this situation and you want to be there for them, there is kind of that impulse of like, oh, I have to help them. I have to protect them from this world where a lot of people are going to hate them just for being different. And not having the presence of mind to go, okay, but until recently, you didn't know anything about this situation. And so maybe sometimes you should give people the benefit of the doubt to not know everything, but to be willing to learn about that. And he does say, he doesn't imply like, oh, if you just let people, get used to it, they'll be good. He does say, look, if there are people who use their ignorance as an excuse to be awful, then yes, you should be aggressive towards them. You should not let them do that. But you should still give people the chance to overcome their naivete, to learn and be better. And that's a really good lesson. And there are a couple of speeches like that where it's like, yeah, that's a very good lesson to impart to people. I do think that it makes a lot of sense to have a character like the teacher who's just like, I just want to drink my coffee and go home on time at the end of the day and not deal with these children anymore. Have him deliver that, sure. It's a little bit weird when some other students are giving the speeches too that are the same age as Hime, and it's like, you're very wise for being 15. It's a little weird that you've got this whole speech prepared, but
yeah,
it's good to say the things that they're saying.
Yes, and there is a fun mix of, people who know what's kind of have like a good grasp of the situation, and people who are trying to do good and are just clumsy about it, or are, as we mentioned with Hime, maybe a little misguided in their intentions versus what they should actually be doing. I guess I want to speak to something you mentioned earlier, which is about Akira herself. I do think that she does have exploration in this volume, but I will say, very thankfully, her pain is not the forefront of her story. The first time we really see her outside of like a child flashback is her in her sailor uniform, like going to school. Like she's like, hey guys, like do I look good? Like, it's nice. There's a lot of joy in that way. It does explore a couple different themes of, prejudice, but thankfully it doesn't get too deep into it. We get, an allusion to the fact that Akira's, at least her father, isn't supportive of this thing, but there is not any like direct. He is not in this volume at all, so I'll be curious to see, somewhere down the line, I imagine we'll probably explore that to some degree. But I really do like the premise of this series. I like that it is a story about Hime and the fact that she has a crush on this girl. I think that is beautiful. I'd love to see those kinds of stories explored. And Hime and Akira are both fun. I think all the characters in this series are kind of fun.
I really like Taneno, the cute, obsessed girl who becomes like Akira's first friend post identifying as a girl. And there's a little bit of tension between her and Hime early on because Taneno is kind of, I wouldn't say fetishizing the Akira in terms of the way that she is identifying and stuff, but she's kind of like tries to like collect her as like a cute person, and Hime is really aggressive about this and stuff, and it's pretty clear from the get-go, like, okay, there's more going on with Hime than just like you're protective of your friend. It's like there's a bit of jealousy simmering there. But it's handled very well when things come to a head because Tanano does come to understand the situation better, and she's just a really good friend to Akira after that point, and is just like, okay, yeah, sure, we can be girlfriends and we can go out together and stuff, and it's very nice. And when she's no longer depicted in that very lightly antagonistic way, she becomes a very entertaining character. I don't normally like characters like her that are like, oh, everything's so cutesy, but there's something about the way that she is drawn and her enthusiasm and her support that I really, really like. I enjoyed her enthusiasm. And also, honestly, between Hime and Akira, the two of them really need someone like her around them to kind of like push them to do things and get outside their comfort zone. And they strike a good balance. So, and there's cute moments, there's fun moments, and the volume ends on a little bit of tension because Akira starts to get a crush on somebody else. And I did at the end find myself going, hey, I really want to read the next chapter. I want to find out what happens next.
Yeah, which unfortunately it's going to take a little bit of time, but if you are interested, as mentioned, I Want to Be Your Girl. You can find it, I assume, pretty much any place that sells digital or physical manga. I guess if your bookstore doesn't carry it, you can ask them to order it. But is there a digital version? I should have looked that up ahead of time.
It was available through Manga, an app that I am not really that familiar with. But I think that the chapters are available through that app if you have access to it and the book's not available in your region, which I don't know how much crossover there's going to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And it looks like you can actually get these at a lot of places like Barnes & Nobles.
Sorry, that's Mangamo.
Mangamo, yeah.
Ngamo.
Yeah. So, highly recommend this one.
I wanted to ask you a question,
sure.
Quinn. If you had a friend who started to have a gay panic because you transitioned, would you take that as a compliment?
Yeah,
because that's kind of what Hime does in this, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take our dopamine wherever we can get it. No one's being hurt. Hopefully, no one's feelings are getting too confused in the mix of this. But I'll take it as a slight compliment.
There's a little bit of the girl love trope of, oh, I have a crush on this person, but I can't because they're a girl. That's so wrong and stuff, which is a little bit odd to have in this situation where it's like, oh, she's being.
It's like it feels like we've gone a layer beyond that in queerness. Like we're just like, really, this is the level we're still.
Now that she's a girl, I shouldn't be in love with her.
I was like, wow, we were really you were really progressive about everything, and then this part, you're still all right. You got some things to work through. It's fair. Yeah, no, I do actually get that too, because you always have to work through your feelings. You're dealing with a lot of presumably imparted expectations from a culture and perhaps from family and things like that. So it does make sense, but it is a little amusing. Like, wait, I would like a girl? Like, honey, you're dressing to school in your girlfriend's old, school uniform, basically. Like,
she looks cool in that, by the way, in the guy's uniform. Yeah. That's a nice touch, which is that Hime does the thing where she supports her friend by dressing in Akira's boy's uniform that she's not using to kind of like force it to not be around her, as in her house. So she, wears this boy's uniform that is too big for her because Akira is a foot taller than her. And then someone brings up the point of like, So why are you wearing that? She's like, to support. Yeah, but why?
Yeah, eventually this just to start to make a statement about yourself. What are you trying to imply by wearing this uniform every day? I had to go. Scream, slap everything off the table. Pull the fire alarm.
So yeah, I think it's a cute series. It's well intended, and I think has a nice level of measured thought to it. So that's I Want to Be Your Girl. It's available tomorrow, or hey, maybe today, depending on when this video gets uploaded. It's available through Random House Graphic.
Yes. And thank you again for Random House Graphic for giving us an opportunity to take a look at this series before it hit its official release here in the States.
That's right.
All right.
Now
we have so many series.
Now we can drop the professional filter and.
Yeah, Nick. What happened in New Exorcist this week? What did the piss baby do?
So why do you guys call it that? That's the name of the series. What are you talking about?
I'll be honest. I think I've truly convinced myself the series is just called New Exorcist.
Ichi the Witch is going to be where we start things off with 40th Hund Succession. We got a very cute color page with Richiya and
Gokuraku.
Oh my God.
Remember, he's a combination of the two best and most similar characters of Goku from Dragon Ball and Raku from Nisekoi. Remember, there was like a death battle between them. I don't remember who won, but it was close. They had to like pull in some obscure Nisekoi facts, I think, to figure everything out.
It's like Raku won. Oh, it turns out it was a Be Dedicated to Your Partner contest. Oh.
And also, he could travel through space and time. You haven't read some of the extra volumes.
No, I guess not. We pick up where we left off with, hey, so the Bakugami has been defeated, acquired by Ichi, and so as a result, the land of Kagami is free. Everyone is regaining their memories and thus what they have lost. And people are like, come around to it. We don't see like an example of anyone being like, no. It's like, no. Turns out it is just a very bad thing if you're not allowed to grieve. And This is healthy. So there's like little touches of like, I remember my husband who was gone. There's a guy who says, I'm able to pick up my tools again. And they're like, yeah, I just feel more alive now.
Now,
it's
Nick,
like living through a fog.
In the situation, you were a member of Kagami Village and everything with Bakugami happened. You get your memories back. You realize you've been grieving this podcast. Do you clutch your microphone in the same way he does the hammer? Like, now that I finally have my tools again.
Now I can record again.
You're like cradling a couple volumes of Boruto. You're like, I have so much garbage to catch up on.
He has a flash of the bodies that he breaks apart with the hammer. It's like, now I can get back to work. Oh, maybe we should have made it so that you would...
Hold on, that guy should not have his memories back. Ichi, get that Joy of Sorrow magic out.
Force him to give it a hug. Of course, there was also, a giant rampaging tapir that was wrecking up the village, so they started to reconstruct. And 2 days after the fight went down, a very, very, very late funeral is held for Gokuraku and Richiya's mother, for the late queen. And Richiya and her father, lead the ceremony. And in the process, her father says, I fucked up. I was not doing my job.
I messed up big time, guys.
So he officially abdicates and coronates his daughter, and so Richiya is now the queen. And I think we had a few people saying it's like, her plan to assume control of the throne finally comes to fruition after 10 long years of planning. She's got a speech all ready to go, but I guess she had a couple of days to prepare it, in fairness.
Yeah.
And she says, yes, obviously we've been through a lot, but, now we have the strength to push on. and says, we may have been knocked low, but we will stand again, and today we take the first step. And Gokuraku, he's still recovering. He's all bandaged up. Has not had his arm repaired yet, understandable. But he's up and about, and he really should not be. Ichi approaches him and says, you need to go lie down. And Gokuraku, of course, is like, you need to lie down too.
You know how long it took to push all of those fucking USB cables back into you? Hours, dude.
There's a cute little panel of the two of them, just with the tiny little bow of apology, say, I'm sorry that I punched you. I'm sorry I stabbed you. They're best friends. Of course, Gokuraku is really grateful to Ichi and says, this is the greatest sight I could ever see. I couldn't be happier, and if you hadn't come, our entire country would have been destroyed. I may be banished. They didn't undo that? Man, your dad really did suck at being a king. You'd think that would be one of the first things he would do. No, we have to repair and we just need you to tear up the banishment order. Nah.
I just want to kind of know my kid I think he kind of sucks. Gokuraku. He's just still an asshole.
That wasn't actually linked to the magic at all.
I didn't realize he was doing that. He just pisses me off so much. I don't know. Keeps taking my USB cables. I never see them again.
He only leaves me with the micro USBs, not the mini USBs.
No one uses those. All I have left are my Nintendo DS chargers, which is great for my Nintendo DS, but nothing else.
I've only got one DS, and I've got so many of every other device.
But at least
By the way, can we trade? What do you mean Gen 7? What the fuck?
What's a Nintendo eShop?
Gokuraku bows to Ichi and says that although still banished, he is still royalty, and so he thanks him on behalf of the land of Kagami. And Ichi immediately just says, yeah, so come with us. It was great, having you hunt together with me, and I've never done that with anyone. That's the first time I've ever felt comfortable trusting my back to someone so completely. Meanwhile, Deskara's like, yes, yeah, you shouldn't trust me.
Deskara's like, I wouldn't trust me either.
And so Ichi says, I want to hunt magics with you again, so come with us. And Gokuraku pauses and doesn't look very happy, and he says, look, Kagami is finally moving forward. My elder sister's at the forefront. She's still recovering from getting all her emotions back, but she has to be leader for the whole country. And everyone is hurting. Everyone's uncertain. If I turn my back and leave my people and my sister now, I can't do that. I'm flattered. And if you call for help, I'll be there. But I can't leave my country. I'm sorry.
You're banished, dude. What can you even do here?
Yeah, you're not allowed to be here. Get out. Go. Ichi just says, oh. And that's all we really see of his reaction for now. But he says, okay, well, then I won't argue with you. I'll come to you for help then. And they shake. All right, I'm leaving. And starts to head back to his room, at which point Deskris finds him and smacks him on the face. Says, stop it! Stop wandering around while you're hurt! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Stop getting close to dying! Don't you understand?
No, I don't. Because you didn't tell me about that. Ichi explains to Deskris that Gokuraku is planning on staying, and so she says, like, oh, okay. So did you, like, throw a big hissy fit over it? No. His family's important to him. And I know how much he suffered trying to protect his family, so it's not my place to try and change how he feels. So Deskris like, yeah, okay. And then pokes him in the head and goes, you're right, you shouldn't be poking your nose into those kind of things. So yeah, we'll talk to Jikishirane and try and get some more details about the prophecy out of her, considering, they were supposed to gain an ally if they came here. But she says, all right, yeah, good work, Ichi. And give him a little fist bump. Cut from there. Gokuraku has returned to his bed. Nice big bed. This guy is not in the hospital wing. This is very good. And he's like, wow, I hurt everywhere.
Oh, man. Shouldn't have done that.
He thinks about how he's going to have to just rebuild his arm from scratch, which he says, like, that's going to take me, like, months. But he does recall that while he was being attended to by some witches, they were like, oh, wow, yeah, all these magical tools and stuff. He said, maybe I can get some help from them. But then he's like, no, I can't do that because we've already just gotten so much help from the Witches Association, and I'm staying here anyway. I can't just, leave to go and get that taken care of. But then he flashes back to the conversation he just had with Ichi, and we get to see the expression that Ichi was making, which, although restrained, is clearly very disappointed and upset that his new best friend is not coming with him. And he lowered his eyes when he said, yeah, okay. And Gokuraku says to himself, that's the first time we were talking and he wouldn't look me in the eye. He must have been sad that I wasn't going to go with him. But then there is a knock at his window, which opens up, and Richia comes in. And she says, uh-oh, somebody's being careless. You gotta lock your windows at night. And she's got this mischievous look on her.
Oh, she's got the biggest shit-eating grin. She gets to turn it back on him.
So, big sis Richia gonna hopefully tell Gokuraku, go get him.
Go after your boy. You love him. He's like, wait, what? Oh, I thought,
what?
You know what? Whatever. Even if it's platonic, just keep going.
It's okay.
You'll realize it eventually.
Right, it's a shonen friendship, right? Okay, sure.
You guys are just buds. I get it. Wink. Yeah. I know.
Look, just go with him so you guys can be roommates, okay?
Yeah, very nice. Yep. I love the callback to the Gokuraku breaking into her room through the window and saying you ought to lock your windows at night and everything like that. It's very cute. I like just a chapter that's meant to make us all feel kind of sad. Like, wait, no, they're not going to go on adventures together? Gokuraku's not going to be part of the team? Very, very sweet. You can see, like, oh, I bet this chapter will pair very nicely with sort of another chapter and be like a full, very complete episode when this eventually gets animated, Nick. Who knows?
That'll never happen.
I wouldn't be shocked if if Shonen Jump's heavily investing in like a time machine so they can jump forward into like, all right, we got all these other Ichi plots, just start animating them now. All right, just get this going. We need this to be fucking firing.
Time paradox anime adapter.
But it's not plagiarism this time because eventually they do just write those stories naturally.
This story is amazing. In fact, it should go into TV Tokyo right away.
Oh, dear. Yeah, good chapter. Blue Box?
Yes, chapter 201.
Blue Box.
Last time, Ayame's boyfriend said that he wanted to spend the whole day with her. And, of course, she had already made plans with Hina and Nina. But as we open up this chapter, she says, okay. And Takasago immediately, his face lights up and stuff. But Ayame quickly says, but I also want to go around with my friends. So if it's okay, only until 3 o'clock, and then I want to meet up with my friends. So Takasago says, okay, sure. Thanks. Until 3 o'clock, you got it. Looking forward to tomorrow. And Ayame is happy with that as he turns to go. There is just a quick little explanation of like her sharing that news with Hina and Nina while they're in the bath. And there's narration as she goes to bed that night, treating him preciously. I've got what it takes to do that now. And we get a flashback to when Ayame was a little kid, like a kindergartner or something, and she had this, like toy wand thing. Goes to her mom and says, I don't need this anymore. And her mom says, but you've been wanting it for forever. But I want what big sis has. Just being a, selfish little kid. And Ayame reflects, I always did as I pleased. However, Karen, when they're a little bit older, when she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna learn how to swim," Ayame is like, "But you can barely like even stay above water." And Karen says, "Well, yeah, I'm frustrated not being good at it." And Ayame is like, "But if you avoid what you're bad at, it's the same as it not existing in the first place."
I agree with Ayame, Nick. If you just never confront your fears, they can't hurt you.
So Ayame
If
is,
you don't
just,
go to sleep, Freddy Krueger
Mhm.
can't kill you.
I mean, you're correct. Not for the reason you think, but you're correct. So Ayame just kind of reflects on the fact that she was kind of flighty, that she would get bored of something and quit it immediately. If something didn't feel right about her being in a relationship, she would just leave it. So we actually get a flash of that guy who was not good at ordering coffee, like she mentioned forever ago. "Oh yeah, I wanted a large iced coffee. Medium? Okay." Gone ditching your ass.
I do love the idea that someone didn't someone misheard his order, he didn't correct them, and Ayame just sprinted out the door. Like there's just like a dust-shaped cloud of her.
Didn't even wait for them to be done with their coffee trips. Like, "No, I'm dumping you right now. I can't even be in the same coffee shop as you.
This is
Get out."
embarrassing. You want a large and accepting a medium. You're pathetic.
But although Ayame, of course, made it easy on herself in the present by doing that, she, observes Karen like pushing herself like harder when she fails. So like she's on the phone and she gets news like, "Okay, it didn't work out. All right, I'll do better next time." And meanwhile, Ayame is just kind of like doing the same thing over and over, just running away from stuff that she loses interest in or when it gets hard for her. And then we see a quick montage of her observing her friends in the gym, seeing Hina, Taiki, Kyo, sorry, and seeing how, of course, they push themselves to get better every day, even when it's hard. And she thinks, "I developed a complex where I believed I had nothing going for me." So we get to the time of the date. Ayame says goodbye to her friends. Takasago comes by and says, "Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm kind of like ditching out on some of our plans, but I'll be back here to meet up with you at 3 p.m. and heads off. Hina and Nina are like, like it kind of sucks that we're not going to spend time with her, but hey, she's getting to spend time with her boyfriend on a school trip. We're not going to mess that up. They're very understanding. So they leave to go different directions. Ayame goes to Kinkakuji with Takasago, and they're looking around, and Takasago has like all this historical stuff that he's sharing with her because this is like a big thing that he's into. So he's sharing these facts with him, and he apologizes, saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on about this boring stuff with you." And she says, "No, like this is like, I'm amazed that you know this much." And it's like, it's almost like you haven't shared much with each other while you've been going out for months.
There's a level you're like, Ayame, what do you know about this boy?
Like the fact that you were going on this school trip to this place and you're doing like you didn't know he was back. Oh no. There.
I also like the idea that he would start to like info dump about this history, and you'd see her putting on running shoes. She's like, "Oh, right, I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore."
No,
okay,
not me anymore. Right. That's not me anymore.
No, tell me again about the Golden Pagoda.
Ayame spots a sign that they've got matcha ice cream and wants to have some. And Takasago's like, "Oh, well, I know about a place nearby because I looked it up." But they go to a cafe and there is a really packed line. And so she's like, "Oh, it's really packed here." And Ayame's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm okay with like if we go somewhere else." And Takasago says like, "Oh, well, but like the matcha parfaits here are really, really good. I mean, I guess if you want to go somewhere else, yeah." And Ayame kind of realizes like, "Oh no, like I'm kind of like forcing an issue here." So she's like, all right, yeah, let's get in line together. Okay, sure. So because she's like, he really prepared for this date, and I want to, So they get in the line, but as they're standing there, this elderly woman is walking by. She's looking lost, and she doesn't know where Kinkakuji, the place that they were just visiting, is. So someone starts to give her directions, like, "Oh, you go this way." But Takasago says, like, "Oh, it's really close to here. I'll show you the way." And he apologizes to Ayame. He's like, "Yeah, I'll be right back. Sorry." So he leaves Ayame in the line, and Ayame is like,
"What the fuck?
I wouldn't have minded if we had gone with her together." And it's one of those things where it's like, dude, the reason why she didn't want to wait in the line wasn't because she didn't like your idea for the place that was going to be. It was because she wants to go do stuff with you. And now you're going off and doing something without her and leaving her in the line she didn't want to stand in, but was only standing in because of you. She's like telling herself, like, he's a really caring guy, and it's like, yes, but I am.
He is definitely somebody who it seems like is perhaps new to relationships. Maybe this is one of his first ones. This is this is unfortunately one of those rookie mistakes where he just let his desire to be helpful override the part of his brain that was supposed to be like, oh wait. This this woman I'm with has agency and might not actually want to just wait in this ice cream line while I go did something else.
Just talk to her. Just communicate. You did a good job the night before.
Yeah, but they did their one communication. So now
we went our quota for the month.
I assumed for at least a year or two.
Yeah, come on. It's not like we're engaged or nothing.
Yeah, these are teenagers. That might be their only one for this next presidential election or so.
I had to sacrifice listening to my teachers in order to get that one out. Come on.
Anyway, let's get back to map class.
Yeah. That's not what it's called. What? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I don't listen to the teacher when he introduces the class every week.
So Ayame is thinking to herself, like, yeah, he's a nice guy, he's helpful, but then her mind wanders and it's like wondering what Hina and the others are doing right now, and it's like, yeah, I'll bet that they're at Fushimi and Aritaisha, and yeah, that'd be nice if I was there. Yeah. So Takasago comes back, and she's like, oh yeah, you should give me some crackers, we could eat them together later. Yeah, okay, yeah, great, yeah. And they do get their matcha ice cream after staying in line and stuff, and Ayame says when he offers to get it, like, oh, like, we always like split the bill, and he says, oh, you wait all that time by yourself, so let me get it. And Ayame is again like, yeah, he's really nice, he's a really nice guy. She spots a shop to get souvenirs at. They stop there, and again, he's like, oh, I can pay for those souvenirs. And she's like, they're my souvenirs and stuff.
That is a very weird one where he's like, can I pay for your souvenirs that aren't going to me and are for your friends? Like, no,
I'm paying for them.
Especially when they don't seem to be that serious as a couple. But I do think that this is his attempt to, like, kind of take their relationship to the next level.
He's trying to be a good boyfriend, or what he thinks is a good boyfriend.
Yeah.
And again, Ayame is, in her mind, is like, oh, he's a really nice guy, and he's treating me so preciously, and he like offers to carry the souvenirs in his backpack and stuff. And she's like, this is miraculous, and so I have to put in effort too to make this work, because otherwise I'll just be like my old self that I don't want to be anymore. And it gets to be about 1:30, which means that in order to get back in time to meet with her friends, Ayame's got to start thinking about leaving soon. So she's checking her watch, and Takasago's like, oh, are you okay? Oh, okay, yeah, we could go like to Kyoto Aquarium next, because they've got this giant salamander and stuffies of it, and I want to get one. And Ayame's like, if we like go to the aquarium from here, I'm not gonna make it back by 3:00. And then Takasago says, "Hey, I know this sounds selfish to say, but I changed my mind. I want to spend the whole day with you." And I'm like, "What are you doing, man? Like,
that is
that's not cool."
That's the one move that's really fucked. It's like you didn't even try to talk to her about this. You really just waited till
time to consider.
You just waited till she was basically on the deadline, and then tried to push for something else. And when she pushed back, you're like, God, but wouldn't it be fun if we just spent the whole day together?
Even if you had like brought this up at like noon instead of 1:30, like that would have been preferable. I obviously like we don't see things in terms of like his thought process because this chapter is entirely from Ayami's perspective, but it's really hard to think of an explanation that's not like you're being kind of a selfish douchebag here.
In fairness, though, and this is as kind of him as they could be. They are going to an aquarium, which do rip. So
That's true.
I might have been willing to be like, well, I did promise my girlfriends that I would go with them and hang out, but this trip I get to go to an aquarium, and I wasn't gonna get to go to an aquarium with them. So yes, let's do the aquarium, and then I'll suffer my consequences later, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's the type of situation in terms of the schedule, which is that she has specifically told him, "But I have to be back so I can spend time with my friends." And he's just like, "No, it was, eh." But before Ayame can even really think of a response beyond just like, "But I can't do that," suddenly a tour group comes between the two of them, and they're separated by a group of people. And while that's happening, she's like, but if I tell him that I can't do it, I'll hurt his feelings, and then I'll just be like back the way that I was before. And she imagines herself like with her past boyfriends and them like slipping through her fingers because she just like would jump from one partner to the next without really caring about them. And she's like, and in the end, I'll just have nothing to hold on to. Which is, oh, you're having some teenager thoughts, aren't you, Ayame? Thinking about you're not going to wind up with anyone when you're 16. But she thinks about now how she's changed, and she's like, I found a role where I was a manager. I've learned to be okay with not being good at things. I made an effort to be better. I thought that I had become someone who could hold on to something. And the visual of her boyfriend slipping through her fingers changes to her and her friends and Takasago and Karen all held together in her hands instead. And it's like, oh, I understand why you want that so much. It's a very cute thing to hold on to. But now she is, of course, being forced to either hold on to her friends or hold on to her boyfriend, which sucks. And she's like, what if I don't treasure them, then I'll just be back to the kind of person I was before, won't I? And then she looks up after they've been separated by the tour group, and Kyo is there.
Kyo! Or maybe it should be more ominous. Kyo?
Kyo. And Ayame says, what are you doing here? And Kyo says, what do you think? Is this a school trip? But I do really like that one. It's such a great thing because she's having this existential crisis and he appears this like, like the guiding light in her situation. What are you doing here? I'm on the same school trip as you are. What are you talking
or we went to the same place. We rode the same bus here, Ayame. What do you mean? Yeah, hey, things are getting tense. I got exactly what I was looking for. We're dealing with the relationship with Ayame. Stuff's good. I'm digging it. It's good.
Absolutely.
Good, enjoyable story. I want to go to an aquarium.
Yeah, that's the main takeaway.
I'm feeding for it now. I hope an aquarium or an aquarium adjacent item might show up in the next chapter. That would help really sustain me.
Chainsaw Man, chapter 207. That
is the title name.
Yeah, it is. Denji is falling up under the effects of the Falling Devil's power, and Asa has grabbed onto him and is like, come on, Denji, think happy thoughts. And Denji is crying and he says, I don't deserve to be happy. The worst thing that's ever been done to me, I was doing to other people. Somebody like me shouldn't be allowed to be happy. Well, what do you say to that? Come on, Asa, you're on the clock. So she basically confesses to him in this moment. She says, I'll make you happy. I've wanted to for a long time. And then she goes, but ow! And Asa admits, I don't know, but we can think about that together. You're dumb, so you have to think. Maybe not the best thing to say in this situation, but she is right.
No, you have to say that with Denji. He knows he's dumb. He's self-actualized that part, and sometimes if you remind him, he thinks about things differently.
A building falls past them. Stuff's really getting messed up now. Stuff is breaking apart all around them. And Asa looks down the ground at the falling devil and says, We've got to stop her. And then she asks, why? Why? We're superheroes, aren't we? And as Denji looks at her in shock, Yoru takes over. And she says, the attacks I've tried on her so far haven't worked at all. I'll use tank. And she points her right arm at the falling devil. And it turns into a giant fuck-off machine gun.
It is wild. Nothing truly prepared me for that page turn.
With a huge bandolier of bullets coming out of it. Denji complains it's too heavy, which feels like it's good in this situation, but I don't know. But Yoru announces that using the Tank Devil's power, I'll load this gun with every weapon I've stockpiled up to this point and let her rip. And she declares, "Bada bada 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 bada," and she fires out every weapon that we've seen her use in the series thus far, plus a few we haven't. So there's the spinal cord sword, there's the aquarium trident, hell yeah, so many things. And as they're fired out, each of them has an effect on the falling devil. You know, a saw splits her head in half, the trident pierces a hole in her abdomen, and she regenerates from them like right away. Some of them she's like getting headshots that explode her head and it instantly reforms, but she just keeps on shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting until eventually the falling devil is just buried in a huge heap of weapons, which is where we end the chapter.
Yeah, this is like a pretty quick chapter to recap because, you know, it's a little bit shorter. And yeah, it is ultimately a lead up to, and then they shoot the falling devil with every weapon Asa has ever made over the course of this series. And potentially, well, I believe definitely a few extra because I don't think she's used her power this many times, like in that final shot where she looks like she's buried underneath the Keyblade graveyard from Kingdom Hearts 3.
There's a few dozen things in that shot at the end.
Yeah.
We definitely have not seen.
But yeah, really cool stuff. I love getting to see Tank finally in action. I like, you know, the fun callback to all these things. The Falling Devil's not done. I don't believe that for a second, but yeah, it's cool. I hope we get more of Asa and Denji talking though, because that conversation was kind of brief, and that was the part I was most excited about.
100% agree. I do not differ in my opinion on this chapter one iota from what you've just said.
Thank you. Well, hopefully we can stay united then, Nick. It's Dandadan, chapter 200. Yes. Everyone's whereabouts. So,
it's a catch-up chapter. Happy 200 chapter, everyone!
Big news! We're going to find out where everyone's whereabouts are.
And some of it is very important.
Yes. Daiki managed to land the plane, so everyone managed to get there safely. There's a couple very funny jokes. Zuma walks into a shark, and he's like, is this a shark that's in here? Holy shit!
Have we been surrounded by sharks the whole time?
And then Momola walks up, and she's like, I was getting bit on the butt by sharks nonstop. Okay, we have to go now.
We're empty space is about to run out. We have to all be in our seats now.
She thought it was important, though, to let everyone know that she was getting, quote, bit on the butt by sharks nonstop.
I mean, she was. So.
She was. To be fair, in a giant suit, who knows if she could even feel anything in. But I do like the idea. I just like the verbiage of walking. I was getting bit in the butt by sharks nonstop. It's just a very funny sentence to have to say. So there is a brief joke moment of like, everyone has to get back to their seats. And Zuma's like, I can't see. Where was I sitting? And Evil Eye just refuses to get in their seat.
I don't want to sit.
But everyone does. Subspace ends, and they're all back on the plane that has now safely landed. And two other passengers nearby are like, "Oh, I was really worried when that typhoon was approaching. I thought something might happen, but thank goodness we arrived safe and sound." Hey, those people with the knives all disappeared. What was up with that? Did we all just dream those people? Speaking of whom, we cut over to Mama Kita, who's like, "Damn it, what's going on here?
Where in tarnation are we?
We're in the dang boonies somewhere. Momo I say she set us up. She wanted us to help us along, and then she sent us packing off somewhere. Well, Momo I say, you'll never get away with this. We're going to find a way to tear you to pieces." And meanwhile, her other family members are like jumping really high and are like, "Hey, the air feels kind of light." And we get a last shot as they're all...
the moon always so big and blue and cloudy?
We get a shot of all of them posing where we can see the Kita family was launched into the moon. They're on the moon now. So,
And the Mongolian death worm is up there with them too.
Sure. I guess you could just have all of its fucking guts scraped out like a fucking pumpkin that you're carving and it's still fine. Whatever. I do like that this now can sit in the pantheon of moon-related subplots that may eventually come back into their series, along with Enel is on the moon in One Piece. I don't know if that's going to do anything, but he is there. Cut over, and the Serpods are talking about, like, our plan failed. We brought over a typhoon from the Philippines, thinking that it would take down the plane, but it was forced to dissipate. Momo Ayase is very strong, and if we don't do something soon, she can be taken down by Count Saint Germain. Ooh, so they're trying to get Momo not to necessarily take her power, but they're like, we need to stop her power from being taken by Saint Germain. Yes. So if we kill her...
Yeah, solve that problem.
Solves that problem. They end by noting that it will be necessary for them to send in a great number of troops. Cut over back to the school, and we see, I forgot her name. Yukishiro, I believe you are right. Yukishiro is talking to the police. Basically, this is the fallout of all the Murakami stuff, and she is basically explaining the blackmail situation.
He was not allowed to get dressed, as he should not have been.
No. If anything, they should have made him eat a couple burgers so he got like a little bit of belly weight on him, too.
Just to look less flatter.
Yeah, he can't. I mean, he looks kind of fabulous getting arrested in like a Speedo when you're super muscular. So I feel like you should have to eat like a couple bowls of chili first, and then they're like, "All right, now you can bring him out now." Anyways, she has explained the blackmail situation to the police, and we see the other characters. We see that Rin is hurt. But she is not so hurt. She doesn't know how to basically try to not a Rin. Sorry. What is her name?
Shiratori.
Yeah, but what's the other name?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Shiratori. She is not so hurt that she can't try to lure Okarun to hang out alone with her at this time. The nurse is like,
because the class press says, "Oh, should I come too?" And like, no, just Takakura.
Yeah, just Takakura, please, if possible. None of them go. Kinta shows up and says, the young lady always keeps her chin up. So that's all good. And Rin, the class rep, is like, "Hey, I'm fine. Shiratori and Yukishiro were both protecting me." There's a moment where Okarun is like, "Oh, how's Hase, by the way?" And we cut to Hase.
Where am I?
Yeah, he's just like waking up in the ambulance. Where am I? What's happening? And Kinta with the great line of, "Who cares about that guy?"
Line of the week. Absolutely.
More importantly, this case isn't solved. Someone was being instructed to collect abilities. So there's someone trying to steal powers. And specifically, Okarun's like, "Someone's trying to steal Miss Ayase's powers?" And Kinta says, "Miss Ayase." So he has forgotten her.
Is very interesting because, as was we were kind of speculating about a few weeks ago, it was declared that the reason why people were starting to lose sight of Momo because they didn't have spiritual powers. And so, of course, Vimola's side of her, and of course, Kinta, there's a side of her, makes sense. Okarun's been separated from Turbo Granny and should not have any of his own, but he vividly remembers her. His memory of her is not affected in the slightest, as we see a little bit later.
Yeah.
And the one right next to him is.
Very, very interesting. Kinta, however, kind of pushes past that and is saying, hey, in this day and age, criminal organizations, they're becoming secret societies. Basically, before they were easy to spot, so now they kind of field their members out. So you never really know who might be a member. There's like a story of a guy who drove a tractor, an old man who was actually a mafioso the entire time. And basically, the way these criminal organizations work is outsourcing. They just outsource to people who are willing to do this work. As such, there's less of a trail. And as a byproduct of that, people in this organization don't know who each other are. So they may not realize who their allies are or even who the real enemy is. So Okarun's like, well, then it means there's no way to know the real mastermind. But Kenta's like, no, they're not a monolith. Organizations like this that don't care about people usually start to break down. So what we have to do is make sure we trust each other. Rips open his shirt. It's like, he gets the whole thing. He's like, if we all stick together, the Culture and Research Club, we will be unbeatable.
We need a better name, man.
Yeah. As he's talking about this and how, wonderful comrades are, Okarun thinks about Momo. And Kenta's like, you were just thinking about me. I was the first one that came to mind when you thought of allies. And he's like, sure dude, whatever. But then Manjiro shows up, running up for specifically Okarun and says, hey, my master was attacked by a mysterious group, and now she's worried that you and the others may be targeted too. So she told me to give this to you, Okarun, and hands Okarun some object, something wrapped up in a cloth.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see what that's all about. This was a nice chapter, just kind of like get caught to speed now that we've exited all the action stuff that has unfolded over the last couple of months. And there were some funny little bits strewn about here and there that were very, very nice. So,
yes.
Good little chapter.
Very much so. Nick, I want to get those legs pumping, though. I've been sitting in this chair for a while. I'm just thinking, is there any series that could really kind of get me in a spirit of, like, moving and maybe kind of get my cardio up, maybe keep me in, like, a rhythm, a pace, per se? Perhaps for long distance or maybe specific distances?
Well, Quinn, do you want to have people to run away from that you're afraid will open their jaws and eat you the whole time that you're running?
Well,
because if so, I have just the series for you. Newest series in Shonen Jump is Ekiden Bros, which is a distance running sports series with an art style I am terrified by. I think that there's a little bit of shaky writing in this chapter, especially becomes it kind of jumps around a little bit in terms of what all is done. It accomplishes a lot. I will give it that in terms of introducing you to our character, the premise, and everything. Could not get into it. Everyone's faces look too demented and weird to me. I could not concentrate on this story without going, Jesus Christ, everyone looks weird. So I'm sorry, I have no insights to offer on this new series beyond mouths look weird. Didn't like it.
I mean, I could say as somebody who has run in the past that I was definitely intrigued by this. There's not going to be another sports series that I'm going to have any connection to because I've never done a sport in my life besides running at this point, which right. I never did track and field running. I've just done 5Ks and half marathons and stuff like that. So, I don't really, I mean, I did like the running parts of the chapter. I thought those were cool. Our lead is a little, interesting. I'm not quite sure.
That's a carefully neutral term.
I'm not quite sure what they're going for with him. He seems to be like, I never wanted to run until I decided to. And then I was great at it. And I'm like, I feel like there should be a stronger motivation in here. I can understand anxiety, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there was like maybe I just missed it. This is a very dense chapter too. Maybe there's just a point I missed where it's like, why did he, like, what was the big hang up besides like, oh, my parents were great runners, so I was really intimidated by them to get into running.
All the people that were on the teams that they coached that were also really, really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really...
Anyway, he's got a form of hyperfocus, and so he basically enters the zone when he's running. That ends up being his thing. So, you know, he just runs. And it's a really weird thing as well at the end because they, you know, stretch out the finish line and he doesn't even win. So it's like, what was he? Wait, what happened here? Did he win? No, he got like 9th. No, not even 9th, 19th place. It's like, all right, did you guys just like stretch out the finish line again for them? Okay, I guess.
They were like, guys, look. I know this is weird. I know we're not supposed to do this. These two are running really close to each other. Can we bring the line, the little tape back out just to see which one of them wins? Yeah, I know it's for 19th to 20th place, but I don't care.
I'm immediately pulling the eject lever on this. I
wow. All right, well, we're gonna see. We're still gonna be talking about.
I just can't look at it. So,
well, Nick, look. What if this is the sports series? What if this is Jump's next big sports series?
Well, Quinn, from what I understand, the main prevailing theory about the success rate of shonen sports stories, especially those in Jump, is that people need to find the male characters in them attractive. In which case, I'll have many questions to ask if this series succeeds. So,
look, hey, we're old, Nick. What if this is what the kids like? You know, like, this is what Gen Alpha is like. You know who looks really fucking cool is fucking Pac-Man. You know, like, just big mouth, always open, kind of charging at you. I didn't hate this series, but we have, like, so many manga to read that I'm not going to... I'm not going to sit here and recap every little portion of it, especially when we have another sports manga that unfortunately is not capturing too much attention to get through.
Mm-hmm. Harukaze Mound, Chapter 3, Weapons. All right, so last time, Nobuhiro threw a pitch. It was impressive, but Wakamori is like, I'm not interested in if he's like, got a few tools. The matter is, like, can he be a replacement for Alkaze? He's the guy that I thought we were going to get, that I thought could, we could build a team around and lead us to victory. I will judge him with cold logic, which I guess is his thing. I guess
we'll find out eventually.
Have to read between the lines. No, we won't. We have to kind of read between the lines. So, rising fastball happens again. This time, Wakamori manages to get the timing down better. He knocks a foul ball backwards, and so he doesn't actually hit it fair. But he's like, next time, I will judge the ball correctly, though. I am going to shut you down on your third pitch. But as a result of that, he's like, he's the perfect opponent to test the results of our training on. There's a typo in this chapter. So Nobuhiro is like, let's do this, and we get a flashback explaining that they did a little bit of training by the river by skipping stones, which he didn't really understand, but it's like, well, because it's your fucking pitching motion, you're miming the pitching motion, and it's kind of actually very obvious if you think about it for just a second.
He's like 13, all right? Give him a break.
He's dumb.
Like a 13-year-old usually is.
Yes, admittedly. So, he's like, wait a minute, why are, we doing this? What's the point of doing this? And Harry's like, practicing baseball doesn't always mean playing baseball. The pros will throw javelins, or they'll do bouldering to train their fingertips. So I do like that. It's like, hey, sometimes we're going to do some training which is going to be very out there and have a change in venue, potentially. This is a good training for you because it's easy to grasp mentally. You have a very straightforward objective you're trying to achieve with the stones, which is I want you to like skip it 30 or more times, which is an insane amount. But hey, if you're doing nothing but skipping stones all day for a long ass time and you're doing visual training with a camera and stuff, yes, I can understand you will be able to accomplish that. And they again reiterate that he's doing mirror image training, so he's recording himself, and then in the moment he's flipping the image horizontally, which is a nice little touch. He trained by modeling his form after his brothers in a mirror image, so he's training on himself in a mirror image this time in order to improve upon his form. He's doing mirror drawing on himself, so he now can get the feeling of reproducing the ideal movement with experimentation. So he gets really, really low, throws his pitch, and as a result of this very unusual pitching form, he has a different weapon, a supreme change-up curveball, which he hits Wakamori in the helmet with because it goes way too high and inside. He doesn't have full control of it yet. But Wakamori also, swung at it, which means it was actually an out. If you get hit by a pitch, yes, it does count as take your base, but not if you swing and strike out when you do it. It's very weird, the rules of baseball. So Wakamori's like, I thought that I had a whole beat on it, but it swerved to my head. And he demands of, I've been getting his name wrong the whole time. Oh, well. He demands of Hayama, like, hey, what was that? And he's like, oh, it's his breaking ball.
You'll remember it for the next chapter.
Only an underhand throw can generate a rising curveball like that. The rising slider. And one of the other members of the club is like, I've never heard of that pitch. And Hayama says, yes, it's a two-seam gyro with a tilting axis and counterclockwise rotation. It's like, that explains nothing. We don't understand the terms. You've broken it down.
That'd be great. There's one dude who's like, you got me from the sumo team, so I'm going to need you to... What's with the bat?
Again, the main character's name wrong this whole time, too. It's Nagiharu. So Nagiharu also doesn't understand the mechanics of it.
Just start giving them new names. So Smith
Beatlesworth says that... what is this all you're talking about? And Hayama explains, like, oh, well, the axes of rotation include backspin, topspin, and gyrospin, among others. Like, anyway, baseball's cool, isn't it?
I love that we are supposed to, like, one of the teammates is sleeping, and I'm like, that's like a fun character moment, because I believe that's the one that asked as well, or one of the characters who asked, who is he? Who is this person?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know who the guy he was throwing to is.
I love that we're like, here's a joke with all of our characters studying one of our characters sleep. And you'll eventually know who this guy is. It's going to be real funny when you go back to read this chapter later.
Once you know who he is, then you'll think this is hilarious.
You're going to be kicking your little feetsies laughing so much. You're going to think it's so funny.
There are two horses, one in the front of the wagon and one behind it trying to push it right now. And it's very confusing. So Hayama says, isn't baseball fascinating? And Nagiharu says, and it's gotten even more fascinating since I met you. Wow, I'm getting better and stuff. And they're like, hey, can you imagine, though, that this is just like the first step because he's going to acquire even more weapons. This guy is going to be a crazy pitcher who will even catch well-known powerhouses off guard and gun them down in their first encounter. And all the other members of the team, well, the three that we see, because, you only need 5 people for a baseball team, are like, yeah, this is crazy. And Wakamori's like, all right, fine. I still kind of think you're discount compared to Alkaze, but you beat me. So I agree with Hayama. You're a reasonable means to winning. You throw some fine pitches. And everyone's like, oh, wow, yeah, cool. And then another team member says, hey, Hayama, everyone here, including me, owes you. And Hayama's like, what are you talking about? Oh, come on. You know what you're doing. Okay. So Nagihara was, meanwhile, he's really emotional because he's been getting a bunch of compliments. And then I was like, all right, it's about time. Let's get this team started. And we get little flashes of the other team members that we're going to meet.
Nick, we gotta read at least the next.
Started.
We gotta read the next chapter so we can see all these wacky team members, like the one with the chest, sleeping at window guy, and long hair smirk. Guy. Yeah, oh, I bet that guy's gonna be so cool. I think there's a dude with like a...
And there's another guy who's sleeping. Yeah. You know, like the guy that we already met that was sleeping.
Oh, and what about that guy in the very far left who's doing like he has his arms out and he's got like a big exaggerated... I bet that character is so cool. So obviously this
I imagine he must be like a punk type of character because he's kind of like slouching stuff. I hope he's doing like a river dance.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if he's river dancing down the street? Guys, this is chapter 3 of, what is this series? Harukaze Mound. And when we get to 3 of a new series, we like to discuss whether we're going to keep it in the recap or not. So, Nick, I'm going to put my vote on why not? But also firmly in the I don't care.
I'm so far in the don't care that I feel like it's got to be a no.
Okay.
Like, I'm just not into this. Like, it's honestly is in the stage where if it were a bit worse, I would be morbidly curious enough to give it a try. But I've just got so nothing that I'm feeling in regards to it.
I will say, this is the best chapter, I think, of the 3 we've read. I don't necessarily say that as like a gigantic compliment, but I do think this was a better... like, if this had been chapter 1, I probably would have been a little bit more interested in it. Obviously, you'd have to restructure it quite a bit, but like, yeah, I think the actual intensity of the baseball action like was pretty good. But unfortunately,
flashback and showing the work he put in, you know, in order to explain like, hey, this is how he developed his second weapon. Sure. And now he's got 2 different things he can call upon. Sure. It's good progression for, you know, your shonen hero type guy who's starting off on his heroic path. Sure. But yeah, it feels like we're not getting the things that we should be getting by this point in all that.
Yep. So in the meantime, I think we're going to have to go to Hima-Ten and see if we can't find them there. We won't. Doesn't have baseball in it.
That's true. We'll have to
that seems actually like a fatal flaw in our plan.
Yeah, we'll have to wait until Hima-Ten has its much anticipated baseball special chapter, but it won't be in this one, chapter number 48, After Party.
Now, Hima-Ten, more like Hima 48, Nick.
Is that going to be the thing from now on, or is just we're going to do this every single time?
Nothing brings me more joy than a joke no one finds funny than myself, and I just repeat it every time. I can't express how much joy it gives me.
So we get a flashback at the beginning of this chapter to the fireworks festival from over the summer after Iamori's group. You know, we're heading back after the fireworks show, and you know, Iamori was, you know, kind of like lost in thought, and he's like, I got somewhere to be. So you mind if I dip? And everyone's like, oh, we can go with you. And he's like, no, I gotta hurry. It's not
about that.
So he left, and upon leaving, Mayu was like, "Are you sure you don't want to stop him?" to Honoka, and she says, "Well, how could I do that? Like, you know, we all decided we wanted to go see the fireworks. What if he already had plans at the time that we suddenly decided to do that? All right, yeah, you know, I guess our second year summer's over, and that's just kind of it." And Mayu, you know, looks at Honoka with this kind of pitying look, and is like, "You gotta work harder next time, girl. Come on." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And now, in the present, as Honoka is standing in front of Iamori, having just told him that she has a crush on someone, she realizes now, yeah, this is why I decided I needed to work harder to get closer to him. And so Iamori's like, oh, you got a crush? Is it the same one you've had since middle school? And in that moment, Honoka's like, fuck, what do I do now? And so she, you know, she's blushing, and she's like, yeah, just kind of nods. And Iamori's like, oh shit, she's had a crush on this guy for like 3 years. Holy crap. Is it someone I would know then? I wonder who it could be. And Iamori or Honoka starts to go, oh, but before she can decide what to tell him, a couple of guys come outside where they're standing and is like, oh, that's the girl from the Idol concert. She's so cute. We should get a picture with her. Who's that guy with her? And Honoka says, oh, I can't let guys from another school take pictures with me when I'm in this outfit. Which, it's a very particular sort of self-consciousness. I'm not sure of all of the levels that there are to this, but she's like, I gotta go. So she can get changed out of her Idol outfit.
Sure. I mean, I don't think you would want to be photographed in that, especially for someone like Honoka, which seems like a pretty like normal, casual kind of girl. It would sort of be like, what if your Halloween costume suddenly became the only thing that was known about you amongst other schools? You're like, no, I don't want that kind of attention.
I can't relate. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Because no one's ever wanted to take a picture of me.
I'm taking a picture of you right now.
No! I'm hideous out.
I'm stealing your soul.
Well, joke's on you. But Honoka, she runs off in order to get changed. And as she does so, she's like, I did say it, but I didn't get to tell him everything. And Iamori at the same time is like, and I didn't get to hear everything. Who she got a crush on? And meanwhile, of course, Himari was listening in the whole time, just like, oh my god, she's got a crush on someone. I shouldn't have heard that, but I like hid as soon as I saw them, and I ended up eavesdropping. What am I doing? Another student comes up and it says, oh, are you okay? Because she's like, crouching down and like going, holding her head. So she's like, they're like, are you okay? Do you need to sit down? She's like, I'm fine. Time skip a little bit ahead. After party for karaoke after the festival. So classes are going out. And so since Iamori and Kanai are the two different class reps, each of them is going with one of the groups for karaoke. So Kanai is going with one group, Iamori is going with the other. And of course, wouldn't you know it, Iamori ends up sitting right next to Himari. And Himari points out, like, why did you like split us up based on like the class seating chart? And she points out to him, like, hey, if you had, used attendance numbers, you could have gone with Honoka. And Himari explains, like, each of us has to be present for one of the groups. Take responsibility essentially for the group stuff. Himari is asked to sing, and she goes into a full love ballad. And Imori's like, this is like a weird thing to sing at an after party. Turns out she's very good at karaoke, gets a very high score on it. But she's like, it was, it's just, I just kind of like saw the show was in blah 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 whatever. But Iamori, is like, gives her a nice little compliment, but then he's lost in thought over the stuff with Honoka. So Himari thinks about that, and she's like, I mean, I can't really blame him for, being caught up in that situation. But when they have a moment alone, when they're going to get drinks, she just tells him that she overheard stuff. Just comes clean right away, which I was not expecting. But she's like, yeah, I kind of accidentally eavesdropped. I'm sorry about that. So now Iamori has someone to impart, his concerns with, like, oh, I wonder who her crush is, if she's liked him since middle school, maybe it's someone who went to another high school. And Himari just goes, what if it's you, dude?
I like just saying the part out loud that Iamori probably has been, like, ignoring or kind of quietly, like, bringing up, like, oh, I wonder if it's... Because he's so mean, like, you think there's a chance? Like, yeah, dude. Statistically, yeah, there is a chance.
There's definitely a chance, yes. But she said, hey, it's like when I told you I was going to stop helping you. I think you've got a real chance with her. She wouldn't have asked anyone else to go to the comedy show or to summer lectures with her. I don't know all the details of your relationship, but, it seems like you're pretty close, basically. And she points out that the two of them have never really hung out alone for fun. It's always been work-related stuff. So, outside of his obligations, they never really do anything for fun together. And she points out, like, yeah, I know you went to the theme park with Kana. You've only ever planned a date with Anoka. So, yeah. Anyway, I gotta go home. I gotta go do work, and I gotta go see my cat. So she says goodbye to everyone, and Iomori is left to think about that. About the fact, like, oh yeah, I guess that I've never really just hung out with her before. Yumari's walking home, and she's like, God damn it, I got a crush on this boy, and both the other girls in our little friend group are way ahead of me in terms of that closeness that they've got. A couple of people spot her, and even though she's wearing her glasses, they're like, that's Himari! Because she doesn't have her super disguise on. She's just got her, normal hair and stuff. And she looks up, sees an advertisement featuring herself, which might be why they were able to identify her if she's walking directly in front of this advertisement. And as she looks at the, makeup ad that features her, one of the onlookers says, oh, she's like the ultimate high school girl. All the girls at school use her line of products. She's a popular model. She's a high school student. She's a company girl boss. Triple threat. So Himari thinks to herself, I think Himari's gotten too comfortable around me. Who does he think he's sighing next to? I'm the Himari Yoshino. And she takes out a sparkly little bandle and she puts up her side ponytail and she's ready to fight.
Well, she's specifically putting the hair ornament in that she has in the ad, where she's like very glamored up. So she's like, you know what, motherfucker? You've gotten a little too comfortable with me hanging around in fucking sweatpants and braids. All right, you're gonna face my full force, and then we're gonna see how you're
going to be hot around you now and see how you react.
Pretty much. So, good luck, Himari. I hope that works well for you. Your name's in the series title, so I'm gonna assume it probably will.
Yeah, it's in the title 48 times now.
I wonder if we'll get to 49 next time.
Yeah. The key to this series actually is going to be that the name of her actual love interest will happen to coincide with the chapter number that he is introduced on. So Tanichi is disqualified because he was only he showed up in chapter 1. If this were Himaichi and his name were Ichi, like Ichi the Witch, then that's actually the key. Is the Ichi?
Oh my god!
Girls, like crossing over.
In their first crossover, which will be chapter 1. Yeah. This is starting to make a lot of sense.
So we just have to wait a little while in order to get that chapter.
Hey, Haikyuu eventually did a chapter with Nisekoi at some point.
That is true.
So it can happen. Now, those were both realistic series. I don't know how they get Ichi over to Hima-Ten's world without it being a little confusing. But
there are some really weird contrivances in Hima-Ten story. It's not very realistic.
It's a little out there. She's a CEO of the company at 15 years old. Okay, Doogie Howser.
All right.
I don't think there's any reference I could have made that would have aged myself more than Doogie Howser.
It's all right. Kaedegami, Chapter 2, A Fine Young Man. It's Chapter 2. Hey, look at that. She's got her face back, and she's making some faces and stuff, having a good time with her face. So she then says, she's like, oh, and Ko, look, I'm going to do a spell. You want to see it? Yeah, I know you want to see it. And she's like really, really happy and bouncing around. There's a poof, and she turns into an owl. It's basically an owl plushie with really tiny spindly legs, and also it has what looks like a pot leaf on its chest. So Ko's like, are you some sort of mushroom? It's like, I'm an owl, a crafty hunter of the night. Honestly, love her in this form. It's a very expressive, goofy looking form. And so as a result of this, no one will look twice at this weird talking owl as opposed to the human-shaped woman that was talking to Go before. they got some traveling to do to get the rest of Chiyo's body back. So they get on a raft, and it's manned by someone who, paddles them into a misty river so that they can go and try and find the rest of it. And Chiyo is upset, however, because she's like, oh, come on, we can enjoy the scenery here and stuff. And Ko's like, I mean, the scenery's covered in mist. So do you know where we're going? And Chiyo just knows that there is a moldy old bookstore they need to go to because she doesn't know where the rest of her body is. Pieces are supposed to be scattered everywhere. But she has an acquaintance who happens to live in the town that they're heading to. They might know something about where the parts of her body are. The guy manning the boat says, like, is that like a talking parrot you got there? Very nonchalant about the crazy looking owl. And so she will realize, like, oh, he can hear me talk. And so she starts going, owl, owl, which I think is funny. That's the sound owls famously make.
That's what they do.
But the road ahead of them is so covered in mist that he's like, yeah, it's not good to go down the rest of the way the river. It's too dangerous. There used to be a time when people could ride the rest of this river, but when this fog rolls in, it's really bad. And it's really bad for our village as a result, because we don't get passengers. And so Ko tries to figure out, like, I guess we'll find out a way around. But Chiyo says, no, we have to go. Triple the fare if you have to. He'll pay it. And Ko's like, what are you talking about? No, why are we doing this? And she's really upset that she doesn't get to see the scenery on the river, which makes sense because, she hasn't had eyes in a long time. She hasn't been able to appreciate the sight of anything.
Nick, you just get eyes for the first time. Or let's say you had eyes and then you lost them. You get new eyes. You could see again. What's the first thing you want to look at?
My wife.
All right, fine. But like something fun,
Manga.
Okay. I would be Cookie Monster. I would be like, pull up a video of Cookie Monster, whatever one he's going the craziest on some cookies on, because that... I was able to visualize it for a while, but like I know I'm missing details. Crumbs get everywhere, but I think I am underestimating how everywhere.
Do one of like the celebrity interaction clips where he goes on someone else's show and they're just like not able to keep it together because he's fucking Cookie Monster and he can't.
Oh man, Cookie Monster rules so much.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when there was like a thing where there was like they honestly tried to like campaign to get Cookie Monster to like host Saturday Night Live. And they were like, absolutely not. We'll let you do like a musical number with Jeff Bridges when he hosts. And that was the only part of that episode I watched. I didn't watch the rest of it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So Ko reacts to Chiyo's whole thing of like, I haven't been able to freaking see anything for a long time. But when he starts to feel bad for her, she kind of bops him on the nose and says, look, this quest is not going to be so easy that you can just charge through it. You need to lift your eyes off the ground and you need to look around too. And Ko says, what is that supposed to mean? And then a huge shape emerges from the water because, oh gosh, there's a Shingwai that is haunting this river. That, of course, is responsible for all the fog. It's a giant serpent with a weird, like, mustache thing, and it like, breathes out through its snout all the fog. And Chiyo very directly goes up to the snake and goes, hey, you, stop this. It's a good idea, but she, gets scared off immediately by the giant snake. And so she's really pissed off and says, Ko, take it down. You should have the strength. And the serpent immediately grabs her, tosses her up in the air to swallow her. Chiyo's much goofier in this chapter than she was in chapter 1. But she brings up the like, look, we're bonded. You've got a mark on your wrist that indicates that we have this contract between us. You should have access to my power, my arcane weapons, and the mystical strength to wield them. The weapons of a deity coupled with godly might that mocks even the heavens above. So you should be able to kill this big dumb snake. Hurry up and save me. And he does. He summons his cloak thingy and his sword. And he throws the sword into the snake's mouth, which knocks Chiyo free. She lands on his shoulder, jumps up after the snake, grabs the sword and yanks it out horizontally and cuts the snake's head off. Hooray! The Shingwai is defeated, and the fog dissipates, and the sun comes through on the river. Hooray! And Chiyo's really happy because she gets to see that pretty scenery again. They get into the village, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the fog's all gone." And there's a moment where I feel like this is a detail we didn't really properly establish in Chapter 1, that Ko is very nervous around people. We didn't see him interact with a whole lot of people outside of Chiyo in Chapter 1, but the people that he didn't seem to have a problem with.
I was going to say, he interacts with the lady who, he's getting stuff from, but I don't really remember the details from it super closely.
I mean, it would make sense that he might have some hang-ups about adults, given the fact that he was abandoned as a child. That would make sense. It's just that it seems like maybe something that was forgotten to be really focused upon in the first chapter. But when he's brought into the village, he's, has that really deep worry. But the guy who was manning the boat lets everyone know, like, this guy is a hero, and he helped everything out. Let him get a good look at you. And he's greeted by some very friendly older people who are really happy with all this, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we can sail again, we're going to get passengers again, and we're going to get visitors." And they say, "What a fine young man you are." And after they've all had that moment, Chiyo, when they're alone, takes her humanoid form again and says, "I want to thank you too, because thanks to you, I got to have this incredible view, and it's even more impressive than I imagined. You did very well." She asks him what he thinks about it, and asks him to take a look around and tell me what you saw today besides my gorgeous countenance. He remembers the smiles of the people who are grateful to him, and it says, "I got to see all sorts of things, and I'm really, really glad that we came here. It showed me there's more I can accomplish for you." And so their journey continues. They're going to go on to the next town.
Wow. The adventure continues for 16, 18-ish more chapters, probably.
You shut your mouth.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I think that this series is still pretty basic in terms of its actual setup on things. There are some nice touches in this chapter, some nice moments that I enjoyed, but there's not a huge amount that's going on just yet.
All right, Otter of the Flame.
Right. Chapter 8? Which of this series? Otter's first ranking happened this week, and it's doing okay, so we'll see. Crucible Valley is the name of the chapter, and hey, so Etopirko and Otter and Vilgia are going to Dwarf Valley, surrounded by Anvil Wall. Do you like those names? And so this is the Mecca of blacksmiths. Wouldn't you know it, the dwarves are the expert smiths in this world. Whoever thought of making a fantasy world where dwarves are the expert smiths? Not me! Never!
Do they all have beards, perhaps? Perhaps they're stout?
Beards? Oh,
yeah. Maybe they
dwarves.
Do they enjoy alcohol of some kind?
Do they like gold, maybe? Etopirko explains to Otter that most of the Forest Kingdom's armaments are made here, and that the Heart Forge in the center of the valley has the Iron Spirit inside of it. So, Flame Spirit, Winter Spirit, Iron Spirit. But the Heart Forge is frozen over. There's just this huge, massive pillar of ice surrounding the whole thing. And we see that they interrogated the general or the captain of the ice demons in the previous chapter, and he's like, "Oh, you fools! Crucible Valley is already controlled by one of the Ice Devil's 6 horns, so ruled of the Blade Horn. I'm sure you're all going to..." And then he suddenly turns to ice and shatters. And he's dead, because someone hid a cyanide pill inside of his magic, basically. And so, because he revealed any information to him, he was immediately killed, because he betrayed the Ice King, the Winter King. So Otter says, he was a bad person, but he fought and died, so let's give him a proper funeral. It's gonna be hard. He's made of ice, dude. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Etopirko and brings up to Filgia, like, "Oh, you didn't know that the forge has like a spirit in it?" And she says, well, my memory is, kind of spotty, so I can sense the presence of other spirits. And if I see a magical device, I can remember what it is. Like, oh, that's a Nistang. But I can't just tell you what I do and don't know for some reason. And then suddenly she hears a voice calling out to her, which says, are you the flame spirit? But she doesn't really know where it's coming from. And it quickly goes away. Of course, the forge is overrun by ice forces. And so they're like, all right, well, this is too much for us to handle. Tobirko says we should sit back and we should wait for Sixten. Otra spots a bunch of corpses that are hanging from a cliff. And he says, look, dwarves bury their dead. They would never dig up corpses and hang them. This is a desecration. And Filgia is like, yeah, we can't let them get away with this. We need to break through. And Etopirko starts to bring up like, no, we shouldn't do this. But before a full argument can break out, someone else starts to mess with the bodies. And we are introduced to a new character, and she's got ear things. I don't know how to describe them. Anyway, she's trying to cut down a member of her family that is hanging from the cliff. So they're like, all right, let's kill that girl. Otra and Otopirko step in because, his life is at stake. The girl looks marginally confused by this. And then, of course, they meet up afterwards. And so we are introduced to Sindra, who is a blacksmith here. And she's got shovels because dwarf.
What else would they have, Nick?
Yeah. She takes them into a dwarven workshop. And Otra's like, oh, wow, it's a real dwarf workshop. But she says, nah, it's not a real one. And she explains that the very first thing that happened when, of course, the ice invaded is that they froze over the heart forge. We get a little look of that horn that that was being talked about before, as he tells all the dwarves that they have captured, you are crafting weapons for our kingdom from now on. It doesn't matter even if you give us poor quality weapons. They're just meant for common soldiers as long as they can kill. That's all we care about. Doesn't matter what they look like. Doesn't matter if they're very strong. You guys have inefficient crafting methods. You need to forget everything that you have learned. Which seems much more like a cultural genocide thing than an actual, oh, you guys aren't mass producing enough. But that's not really explicitly stated. But this is clearly a violation. Sindra's very pissed off about it, of course, and she says a real dwarven craftsman would have said no, even if it meant crushing his fingers with his own hammer. But Oter says, like, look, you've done nothing wrong. You're a craftsman and you need to protect your hands. Like, that's your life, is the knowledge that you have. And she promises, all right, we're going to help you. And Topirko again is like, we need to wait for Sixten. You idiots, stop this. But Sindra says, look, you two aren't going to be able to beat the plate horn. Like, thank you, but you're not going to be able to do this. But at that moment, Filgia again hears a voice calling to her. She gets Otra's attention, and this time, Otra can hear it. And the voice is calling out, help me! And it's the Iron Spirit calling out for assistance. Only Otra and Filgia can hear it. And it says, this is not common ice. It is part of a horrible spell. Magic has been frozen around me. Within half a day, I'll be gone. What you call death will be upon me. As a result, they don't have time to wait for Sixten, because he's not going to be here within half a day. So Oter says, all right, I have an idea. Sindra, later on, pushing a cart. The old pushing a cart trick. Everything will be fine if we just push this cart. But there's an extra little twist to it in that what she's pushing has frickin' burning cinders inside of it. Oh, well, okay. Well, of course, Oter's got, a flame spirit that can protect her from that.
Yes.
But it's a nice little extra trick that they have. So, as they're allowed by the guard to keep on going, Sindra says, like, are you sure you're not hot? And Oter says, like, these are my spirit's flames. I'm fine. And it just feels like I'm in a really hot sauna. That means you are hot. Stop it.
He's warm, but.
Sindra says, "Why are you going this far for someone you don't even know?" And Odra says, "Because I do know you." Which is a cute thing to say. But you're right here, you know. And he says, like, come on, let's go take back your pride so you can warm your fingers again and give it back to making what you want to make. Hooray!
I think this would have been...
New adventure begins.
I think this would have been a very good chapter 2, or maybe even 3. I think it's cool. Like, hey, we're gonna add the iron spirits. Like, hey, if we have this mythology, if we're gonna build in this world, let's like play into the magic. Let's do fun things. Let's deal with like an intense ice general person or something like that. So we shall see, I guess, what the long-term chances of Odor of the Flame are. But I'm not expecting a lot of great things from it, unfortunately.
We'll see.
We shall see.
All right. With that being done, it's time for Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, and let's hope everything works out for Sakaki in Chapter 50, Mr. Sakaki the Exorcist.
I just went through a mini version of this chapter's experience again because I was like, what happened in this chapter? Oh, right. Oh, actually, that was good. Oh, wait. Never mind. As I just like was reminded of all the details all over again.
It kind of goes back and forth very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yuta is going berserk, and Sakaki, again, is told by High Stakes, like, you've got 20 seconds left on Wicked Trifu Naginata. You gotta make up your mind here. Your only chance is if you kill Yuta. Yuta summons these bolts of energy around Sakaki. High Stakes reacts quickly and just eats them up, Pac-Man style, to protect Sakaki, and says, like, 15 seconds left, come on. And Sakaki is begging with Yuta, like, I don't want to kill you. We can put an end to the Black Parade, which I had just forgotten was the name of this event.
Yeah, the entire time My Chemical Romance has been playing this entire arc, yeah.
So, you know, it's looped about twice.
Yeah, Teenagers is playing right now, and you're like, I kind of like this song, I guess. I don't know. I honestly, Nick, if we're gonna do volley back and forth on My Chemical Romance songs, I am out after Teenagers and Welcome to the Black Parade, unfortunately.
Me too. I don't know any. I wasn't a My Chemical Romance kid. So
yeah, we were into cooler music like Linkin Park.
Linkin Park.
Real tough music, like Trapped and whatever else WWE was playing.
Really not into Trapped now, I can tell you that much. That Trapped's lead singer is insane. Okay, he's just...
Yeah, dude. I mean, what else? There's a lot of, little crazies in that genre space. Yeah. You either are crazy or you make the same music until you're 90, I think. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be one of the two.
Or both. So Sakaki, is begging Yuta to stop. It's not happening. Yuta prepares another attack, and High Stakes tells him as such, like, this isn't working. Portal up in the sky shoots down a beam of light now after it's called down by Yuta and nearly hits Sakaki, and High Stakes is like, you've got 5 seconds. And Yuta's preparing an attack. And he's counting down 5, 4, 3. First thing that comes to Sakaki's mind is time that he had together with Yuta when Yuta was an apprentice exorcist serving with them. 2 seconds, and Sakaki says, all right, goodbye, Yuta. And he prepares the Naginata. 1 second, huge clash comes in as Yuta's got a ball of energy grass in his huge demonic hand, is coming in towards Sakaki while Sakaki prepares to swing his Naginata. And then, in the moment they're about to clash, he remembers an exchange that they had. Again, they were working together, where Yuta said, I'm really glad I became an exorcist because I got to meet you, Mr. Sakaki. And Sakaki clenches his eyes shut, freezes up, and Yuta blows a hole in his torso. Just coughing up blood. High Stakes can't believe this has happened, is utterly distraught, and Yuta is shocked as well. High Stakes like, this can't be happening, Master, no! And Yuta demands to know, like, why? Why did you stop attacking? Is it pity? And Sakaki says, like I could kill my adorable little junior. Besides, I'm an exorcist. And now that my lungs have been blown out of my chest, time to light one up.
It's consequence-free. There's no... He should have as many cigarettes as he wants right now while he has no lungs. Time. Look, when he goes, the coroner report is going to say that smoking did not play a clause in his death, and he is going to be ecstatic about it.
Somebody has to add a Surgeon General's warning that, smoking cigarettes may impede your judgment when fighting the demonically possessed junior apprentice of yours. And like, damn it. It was smoking that killed him. But Sakaki says, look, I'm an exorcist. I only exorcise demons. You're human. It's okay, Yuta. I'm sure you can still come back. We're going home together. And Yuta's like, come on, what the hell? Just give up on that. But Sakaki, real cool guy, blows him. What is he using to blow this puff of smoke? How is he?
You can't see behind him. He's got like an air mattress pump. And that's just a...
Gets the bellows out.
High stakes, hurry. Faster. Stop crying. It's messing up the rhythm.
Sakaki says, I told you, I'm a gambler. Once I go all in, I won't back down. Well, yeah, once you go all in, you can't back down.
Yeah, you can't
fold at that point.
Once you've gone all in and you've lost, you are actually done. So yeah, fair enough. He brings up a good point.
He gives Yuta a big smile and falls over onto his stomach as the cigarette falls from his mouth. Yuta is shocked, and Mukurojima at that very moment, his body, which had been sliced to pieces by the blade, comes back together. He's like, oh man, I thought I was fucking dead. Good job, Yuta. Gonna go and desecrate this corpse. Give me that. And immediately Yuta grabs him by the back of the head, squishes it like a grapefruit, and Mukurajima's like, what the fuck? You betrayed me.
Damn it. That was such a wacky, charismatic villain.
Yuta says, don't you dare lay a finger on my Butterfinger sensei. And Mukurajima's like, I'm going back to hell now. Yuta falls to his knees, demands to know, like, why? Back then I was in my heart ready to die. I told myself if it was you who did it that I'd be okay with it. I've been meaning to apologize to you. Every time I passed by a Chinese place, I would think of you. I'm so stupid. I always realize things too late. I still had a home to go back to. Because it was Sakaki. Sakaki was the guy. Anyway. The sister's hand appears and pats him on the head briefly. And thinking of her, Yuta wipes his tears away and his hands start to glow as he goes, no, don't give up yet. I won't let Mr. Sakaki die. Please, sister, please give me the strength. And he puts his hands over Sakaki's chest and starts to pour precept energy into him. Sakaki wakes up. High Stakes is there, still crying. Very supportive demon partner guy. Sakaki looks down in shock, realizes he's healed, looks around for Yuta, spots him. Yuta's body is smoking. And Sakaki has a look of shock on his face. And that's where we end. It seems that Yuta has sacrificed his life in order to save Sakaki's.
Wow. How engaging. I got super into this chapter when I was like, oh shit, I think they're gonna kill Mr. Sakaki, which is like, you know, a little brazen, but at the same time, dude's been throwing up death flags forever. Like,
yes.
He might as well be made of them at this point. So, like, you know, works out there. And also, my main qualm with Yuta is kind of resolved if actually the main thrust of his story is actually still in front of him. Like, if we say that this is the guy who was lured into evil, in the process of being evil, ended up killing his former mentor, even though they were trying to give him a way out. And as a result, he has to kind of, like, reckon with what he's done and kind of become like an anti-hero or maybe like a reluctant ally, whatever. Like that, you just got a story ahead of him, and that makes it fine that we didn't get his flashback until like a chapter before all this happened. And then the end of the chapter happens, and they're like, actually, this is like every other fucking Exorcist series. If you just kind of push spirit energy into someone, it could repair any damage, but also Yuta's probably dead or whatever. And I'm just like, this is the much more boring result of what could have happened from all of this.
I don't have as negative a feeling about this development, but I am in agreement with you on my thoughts on this development. I thought that like, oh wow, we're gonna be killing off Sakaki here. Kind of a shame because I did really like him, but this does leave the door open for a lot of interesting possibilities. And then it turns out, well, no, I guess we're just killing off Yuta. I guess we're just done with him.
Yeah.
When it never really felt like we got a fully realized character to get invested in on this matter. And yeah, I guess we're just kind of done with that, and Sakaki's gonna go on into the next arc, and we're just gonna keep on going with kind of the status quo, it seems, as far as he is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not in any danger of going anywhere anytime soon, but I will say that I kind of feel like Ultra Exorcist Kiyoshi is really chewing through its goodwill very quickly. We get a couple segments like, the Sasuke fight that I was like, oh, this is actually legitimately very good. But considering the only thing we have left from here is Kiyoshi, who has gotten significantly more boring since they kind of removed his personality, versus Azura Roth, which is like, cool, but like, you're like Timu Hisoka, like I've gotten this character before. Like usually it's the dichotomy of the two of them that kind of makes that character special. And right now it's like, I don't know, you're just like watching a movie where fucking Jason Momoa is doing his gay Joker impression, and then the other person is just some regular dude. Look, if you watched any Jason Momoa movie in the past like 3 years, he has like a gay Joker that he does. And I don't know another way to describe it than that. It's just very flamboyant and weird.
All right. That being done, let's go to Marriagetoxin, chapter 132. Last time, Shiori got the idea to do a trading card game based off the specialty users. And so the first people that she and Gero go to see are the Wind Wheel users. We get a little flashback after their first introduction where Shiori is kind of like being like, hey, what you want with us? And she's a bit intimidated around them. To Shiori explaining like, hey, look, my company's in trouble. My aunt still hasn't woken up. My uncle's barely holding everything together with his muscle strength. But she realized like, hey, there's all these cool specialists in the world. So if we made a card game based around them, we could revive Balzac's fortunes. Yes, the company is still called Balzac. So the Specialist Masters is her card game idea. She says, I understand the underworld is dangerous, but my father built this company from the ground up. I can't let it go under. Please help me with the other specialists so we can develop a bestseller. And Gero says, yeah, like it is true that specialists are dangerous, but I have met a bunch recently that are not like dangerous to get to know. So yeah, I'll introduce you to everyone.
I think there's a big flaw in her plan, Nick. Like really big. She's trying to design her initial set for this game top down. Like, you got to think mechanically. You can't just go for flavor. That doesn't last for decades and decades. You need something that has a good, solid mechanical base. Or an IP. So, I think you're very going to quickly have to accept. You're like, hey guys, it's a specialist, but it's Avatar The Last Airbender this time. Or it's specialist, but we got the license, and all the street sharks are going to be in this one. It's going to be crazy.
I mean, Quinn, we don't know anything about the mechanics of the game at all, so...
But we see how she's designing it. She's like, just show me what you could do. And she's going to be like, I guess I got to come up with a fucking move where you guys kick motorcycles around.
Yeah, she's like, gets to see some of the techniques demonstrated for her, and she's like, holy shit, flying motorcycles, you guys are so cool. I ride a bike too. And hey, all the Windwheel users are like, yeah, you're really rad, girl. It's like, oh, this is very cute. They're taking in this very shy girl. And so they after that they say goodbye. And it's very encouraging visit. They go then to see Kiyoshi. That's Kiyoshi, right? Not Kiyoshi. Kagami. Kirito. Fucking hell. Too many K names. Kirito. And he demonstrates his like surfing sword thing and carves up a crystal in the shape of a statue, I guess. And he's like, yes, we, as the Iron Clan, we keep our eyes open to everyone. And Garo's like, oh, thanks, Kirito. I am merely acting as a true rival would. No, you're not.
Well, I like his brag, and then he's like, observe my technique closely and become even stronger, Go-san. You're like, my dudes, I've never seen someone so willingly flanderize themselves. Like, yes, I shall be nothing but your rival henceforward.
They go to see the sound user at the same time that they're visiting the taste user. And there's a brief moment where as he's performing on an harmonica, he's like, oh, yes, this is to make amends with you. And Shiori goes, all right, you tried to kill me before. That's all under the bridge, though. It just immediately moves past in the space of one.
I was going to say, it's the same panel of, oh, right, and then, whatever.
We're moving past that's fine. As they're walking together after their visit, Shiori is thinking to herself, like, they're all really nice people, and I think that the reason that they're so nice is because of Garo-san. Just, another girl, like, reflecting on what an amazing person that he is. So Garo says, like, it's late, so we'll save the gun user and the hamster user for tomorrow or later, assuming that you can find the hamster user, considering what's been happening to all your other girlfriends, dude. But while he's in thought, he turns to Shiori and asks, like, hey, can you do me a favor? Would you let me work at Balzac? And he is very serious about this. He bows deeply while asking and says, look, you've taken an interest in the underworld, and I want to, on the other hand, experience what it would be like to work at a regular company. And also, your situation worries me. I think that you could use a bodyguard, a protector of sorts. And Shiori is like, yeah, I'm glad you asked. I was thinking of asking you myself. And so they head to Balzac together. Garo puts on a suit. Don't he look nice? And Shiori says, okay, first thing, if you could help me write some emails to all the specialists we interviewed to thank them for their help. So, write some thank you emails. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Whole day goes by. And eventually Shiori looks over at him. Did you finish writing emails to everyone? I'm still on the first one for the windmill users. I'm at 100,000 characters and plan to write maybe 20,000 more.
I love my boy who, I don't understand his thought process. He's like, yes, thank you letters are measured in the number of characters used. Thus, I must reach the goal of at least 120,000.
And like all good boys, Garo doesn't use ChatGPT to write this email. Wrote every single fucking character himself.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, just like good boys, he doesn't use line breaks. It's one long, giant paragraph.
That's, whatever. So, no, he's got a paragraph break. You can see it in the background of the shot where he says he's still in the first one.
Can you?
I mean, maybe I'm gaslighting myself. I don't know.
I just assumed it's because Japanese, I don't think, has line breaks that same way. So they were like, well, we will put them here, but...
it does. You can break up, like, the columns of text.
Sure.
But anyway. she brings up like, "Oh man, it sounds like you kind of need overtime." And Daguerre says, "It's okay, I'll be done by morning." And she says, "No, you shouldn't be working that much. And also, like, if you write a novel length email, that will probably be trouble to the person you're sending it to." And immediately Garrow's like, "Oh,
Oh,
this
wait,
is
you
real
shouldn't
bad."
be sending novel length messages to people.
So Shiori has to be like,
I
"Oh,
gotta
it's okay."
apologize to my boyfriend real quick. Hold on, Nick. I'll be right back.
Garrow says, Shiori says to Garrow, "It's like, it's okay. You just made like one mistake on your first day. It's fine. And also, like, you're very earnest. That you're a great guy." And also, she brings up a nice little point, which is, hey, you might have like a hidden talent for writing. And Garrow says, "Well, I guess I was alone a lot as a kid, so I would read books a whole lot." So Shiori says, "There's this thing in card games called flavor text, which is like a little blurb that gives you insight into the game. Would you like to try writing that for Specialist Masters?"
Now, do you remember when like Dr. Stone would be like, "Hey, we just invented a fucking hemp rope." And it would be like an entire chapter like leading up to the most glorious thing of like hemp rope is the coolest thing ever. I wanted them to do that for this revelation
For flavor
because the
text.
idea that fucking Garrow working on this game would be like, well, I guess I'm not really good at anything, but I can write the shit out of some flavor text. I don't know why. That is the coolest moment. Like if they had given some more like fanfare to this moment, I might have made this my chapter of the week right then and there. I'd be like, because this is very cool. People don't get enough credit for writing flavor text on things.
Absolutely. It's underrated aspect to trading card games. And I do think that it's interesting to have someone kind of bring this up as like a thing of like, oh, this is like a thing that Garrow could do when he's not being a freaking assassin. Not necessarily like, oh, he'll be a writer when he subs to it. It's like, it's nice to see like, oh, you've got a skill that you could do. That's nice. But Shiori immediately kind of like backs off, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of like put you on the spot asking you to do that." But Garrow says, like, no, I'd be glad to. He says, "I've only ever lived as a poison user since I was born. This is the first time anyone's recognized me for anything other than that. So please let me work on this. I want to try." Aw. At that moment, Shiori's secretary, Naoki Yano, bursts in and is immediately like, "Oh no! No! Chateau Honore has once again put out a cheaper copy of our product." This guy's the mole. He's the mole, isn't he? It's the one other employee of this company. But he, holds up like, "Oh, there's this thing, there's these shiitakes that we've been putting out, and ours are 280 yen, and theirs are 190 yen. They're undercutting us with their own shiitake. Shiitake boy!" So, Garrett brings up a good point, which is, how can they sell the same thing at the lower price? And then Shiori gets a look on her face of like, God damn it. We cut into Chateau Honore's boardroom, where douchebag CEO Yuji Mino is again eating with his don't eat like this. It's gross. Don't eat this. It's pills in his freaking pasta. What is it called? It's taco. Was it taco?
Yakisoba or something like that.
I think it was yakisoba. I think you're right. But there's a shadowy figure, is the only other person present in the room, who asks, "Why Target Balzac?" And Yuji says, "Because they were happy and I fucking hated them being happy. I saw that family running a company being happy and successful, and I just want them to not have it. I want to take away the victory that's fallen in the laps of those easygoing fools." All right, so you're an asshole.
Yeah, I was like, I guess I admire that this dude has no complexity to him. He is just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole.
Just a hater. He's just a hater. But he says as well, I didn't have much hope for you specialist guys. I thought you were just a bunch of clowns running around with pointless skills. But the drone user you introduced is now an indispensable partner in my business. And the shadowy figure says, "Well, I'm glad to hear that as your consultant." And Mino says, I look forward to our continued partnership. Doll user! And we get a full-page spread of the doll user, who looks like a crash test dummy.
I do love how disturbing the doll user is. Very appropriate. Yeah, good stuff. I don't know what to say. Fun little reveal there.
Yeah, I really like this chapter. I like that it starts off, oh, isn't this nice? And then it goes to, oh, Jesus Christ.
I would love to talk more about it. We're running so short on time, and I do not want to shortchange a chapter of New Exorcist that's going to live on forever, Nick.
No.
Well, in that it exists now, so thus it will continue to live on. Yeah.
Chapter 104. Oh my gosh, the baby is now a small teenager, I hope, named Yozora.
Well, it's okay.
No comment on that. Chapter 104, a showdown with Nue. The new power introduces itself as Yozora, and she touches like, wow, that baby grew really fast. Like, yes, it did.
So much so it seems suspicious. Like, no one actually saw that baby turn into this girl. Like, this should be some shenanigans. Someone might have snatched that baby.
Gakuro just did kind of just like look away, and then when he looked back, it was this weird little princess character. Yeah. Ishu immediately is like, come on down here, mommy will hold you. And Yozora fucking smacks her across the face, stares into her eyes and says, gaze at me. And Ishu is like, I'm sorry, bows down. And that's just it. All right. What is she here for? You've broken her. Ugh. Nue steps in and says, Yozora is a manifestation of my energy that is built up in Gakuro's hollow weapon. Yes, that was what I was saying insistently last week, and nobody listened to me. Which is linked to a new ability acquired a physical form. In other words, she's basically me as a child. At this stage, child rearing will get a whole lot harder. And, yeah. So Suo brings up, like, so you acted like that as a kid? Fair point. Yozora says, it is only natural for the maid to feel trepidation. We are already a perfect being. We need care from no one. And she starts shooting barbs at Nue, and it's like, why are you guys arguing? You're you! Stop it!
Because it's, sort of like, Nick, I don't have time. Just watch The Substance, okay? It explains everything. It's gonna be a little gross, I'm not gonna lie, but otherwise.
Nue brings up that if Yozora keeps on acting like that, no one's going to follow her. Yozora says, we are a superior being. This is fitting behavior for us. Okay. Nue says, like, yeah, all right. You're being a bratty little kid right now. And Yozora is going to be like, So she, however, says, we can raise Gakuro more skillfully than you. The bout later today, we will ensure his victory over Heiichi. And once Gakuro has defeated Heiichi, we will take him from you, Nue, from me, Nue, and will henceforth raise him ourselves. And Nue's like, all right, cool. I mean, you're not supposed to be competing with me, though. You're supposed to be competing with Gakuro. And Gakuro is like, oh, I was like, yes, you're her.
What am I supposed to do?
What? So at that moment, as Nue reiterates to him, like, remember the parent thing? That was the whole point of this training arc. Yozora suddenly throws herself backwards off of the guardrail that she was on, and Gakuro goes, oh no! And goes and catches her. And so now he's caught her by the wrist, and so Yozora goes,
which is weird because she dove head down. So
I don't know how that happened. Xenoblade! So then Yozora
Zeno flip!
Yozora is like, haha, my trap has worked. And she pulls herself up and kisses Gakuro on the lips. Oh no, the law of decahedron has gotten more complicated. And wouldn't you know it, Quinn, being kissed by his lowly daughter makes Gakuro go... And Yozora, to make things even stranger, goes, we'll show you are mistaken, Nue. We are Gakuro's parent. It is we who give to him. So this lowly daughter-mother figure just kissed Gakuro, which made him go with power because You know.
It's okay. They're not related by blood, Nick.
Oh, man.
I know.
The daughter and mother really by blood. Everyone in the vicinity is going crazy right now.
Zeno bursts through a wall. He's like, what's happening? I just know I'm needed here. My pants already... I came with my pants already pre-urinated in. Which is good, because there was a lot of piss on the way up here. It's like this whole building was full of it.
I had to wet myself to build up immunity to the piss I waded through. Oh my god, Yozora and Gakuro, next page, are now facing off against Heiichi in that sparring match. And new hollow weapon, it's got teeth. And they're like, oh man, his hollow weapon changed. You fucking think? They said it was going to be a new hollow weapon. Yeah, it fucking changed. And so they're going to fight. Begin! Heiichi, samurai slash, and launches an arc through the air. Yozora's technique is to be a giant fucking mouth and eat it. Honestly, could have done a whole ass chapter about this. It's kind of fucking cool.
The coolest thing about Nue is that she's actually like a secret evil monster who just looks like a hot lady. And then playing into that here is one of the cooler things, but I feel like the series is never going to like fully get too into it because they want you to have the hots for Nue.
Yes. But although that slash has been deflected, Heiichi just goes spams the move, and Yozora can't block all of it. So it ends with Yozora still being like, monster bite, and Gakuro's just dangling from her, which is a cool visual that should have been given much more attention. Like the fact that his power is still like monstrously fighting on while he's like unable to stand still. And Yozora is really pissed off about this, and she's like, unforgivable. Without victory, our existence has no meaning. And then Heiichi gets a look of, oh shit, as Yozora turns into a huge fuck-off monster that's kind of hard to see in the space it's crammed into, and is slashing out with tentacles and stuff. And
it does look like it would make a pretty sweet Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah. Gakuro's like, oh, Captain, you've got to evacuate everyone because I can't control my power because I'm the hero. And Heiichi's like, no, deal with it your fucking self. Gets in next to him, not to attack him, but just to go, you suck. That's your team. You're supposed to protect them. And Gakuro goes, yeah, I guess she's right.
I guess I should nut up finally.
So then there's a quick flash of Nue saying, did you forget, Gakuro? No matter how far you go, you are this unruly girl's parent. And so Gakuro goes, Yozora, stop! This isn't gonna work! And Yozora starts, ranting like, no! If we destroy everything, we must win! And Gakuro goes, hey! I told you to stop! And Yozora goes,
hey now! Enough!
That out!
Enough is enough! Listen here, Buster!
You had better simmer down! You better take a chill pill, young lady!
Time out, little lady!
Yozora goes, dum dum, and all the power fades, and she turns into a cat with 3 tails. It's got a cat hat that looks like a crown because it's Yozora's crown. Anyway, it's going, and Gakuro goes, she turned into a cat! Very good, Gakuro! You get a cookie! That is what happened, you ditz little boy!
That's not a cat! That's some fucking magic cat thing! Just say it's a magic cat!
That's also a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, wow. Yeah, true.
Magic cat. So Nue says Yozora is one of Gakuro's abilities, so those words seem to be her emergency shutoff. What, I told you to stop, Yozora? Alright, fine. So, Sua's like, oh man, so you're saying we need to train this kid to be useful in battle? Damn. Alright. Gakuro takes Yozora back to their room.
God, this is the part of the chapter I feel like I shouldn't be here for.
None of us should be here in this moment. Anyway, takes her back in cat form to the room. She turns back into her lowly princess form, and Gakuro immediately gets nervous around his daughter mother. So she says, don't be timid. Go on. We will answer you. We are Nue's copy, a counterfeit. Unless we defeat Nue and prove we are better than she is, our existence will not be acknowledged. And so we wanted to win today, no matter what. And Gakuro realizes, like, oh, yeah, I guess I am this girl's parent, basically. So she's like, well, yeah, but you can't hurt people around us. We're fighting to protect everyone. And Gakuro thinks to himself, Yozora's words made my heart skip a beat. Stop being a weirdo. I definitely wasn't the one who was the most serious about that match. I hadn't even visualized confronting a being I had no hope of defeating. But I'll never defeat the hero that way. So he puts his hand on Yozora's back and says, I'll help you. So let's work together and get stronger than Nue. And Yozora smiles and says, I won't let you forget those words. Turns around, starts undressing, and says, you disrobe as well. And Gakuro goes, huh? And she says, don't misunderstand. We're only supplying you with energy. Okay?
What does that mean?
From now on, we will do that in Nue's place using a more efficient method. This is the greatest effort we can make. You aren't allowed to refuse. Well, if you say I'm not allowed to refuse, I guess I'll get naked next to this. Not sure how old she is, but she is technically today years old, so I better get naked. And at that moment, Suo comes in and the chapter ends.
The series should end here. The series
should no next chapter.
Just straight up end. If someone asks, they're like, "Oh, Gakuro went to prison," and that's the end of the series. You're like, that makes sense.
Just get an announcement like they did with Actage, just like there's no
guys. A new Exorcist sexorcisted a little too close to the sun. So we're going to have to send it goodbye. Check out new issues in Jump Ultra Square or some shit like that. You know, wherever other series could go. Truly, just abysmal vibes from this entire final segment. Just heinous. Can't say anything more than that. Don't like it. Not a fan.
I don't really keep up with new sexist discourse outside of the wonderful conversations that it evokes in our Discord. But if I ever come across someone who talks about this moment, the very first person who says, oh, well, there was precedent for this, though, because of how Nue has Gakuro put his head in her lap to recharge her, so this actually has precedent, I will find them, and I will punch them in the dick until they can't use it anymore.
Oh, no. I don't keep up with the discourse. All I know is I saw my name mentioned several times in the Discord as I wonder if Nick and Quinn will even keep reading this series. Sure. I mean, you know, sunk cost. I guess until the actual crime happens on screen, I guess I'll keep doing it. But
well, because if it ever does happen, then it'll be like, okay, well, I mean, like, there's no other judgments to make now.
Yeah, but as it, sorry, the moment of Gakuro trying to discipline his child, be like, hey, I told you to stop! And it's like, there is not a bone in my body. Now, maybe we ruined this, but I was like, there is no way to hear that except in like a, hey! I said stop it!
Look, that impression has not that impression. That voice has lasted us 2 years at this point. It ain't going away. All right, Akane-banashi, story 164. It's as plain as day. Suiyun prize. We get a brief shot of like hey, everyone's like in the summer and stuff, and then it's time for everyone to watch it. We see that there is a representative of the Arakawa School, whom I think we've seen before. Is going to be the host, and as co-host there's a TV announcer. Isn't that nice? Kashio and his younger co-worker are talking about this, and she's like, man, this is a huge event, isn't it? But she's Kashio is very distracted because he was there during that confrontation between Akane and Shomei, where she showed up looking possessed and very, very like sleep deprived. We establish that the order of participants is not the same as the ranking, as was the only other indication we had gotten before. As it so happens, Akane is still going 5th. That has not changed, but everyone else's order seemingly has been changed, including the actual first participant. Of course it's Zenmai. Why wouldn't it be Zenmai going first?
It's so funny. My poor boy comes out there and he's just like, you know what? I can see that Akane is working really, really hard. So I have to give it my all too. And then you just have to watch him get ruthlessly fucking eviscerated by Shomei.
Yeah, he comes out all full of confidence. He's like, I'm the first ever performer and the first ever Zwiyun prize, so I guess I'm number one. And so since I'm the best, let's do a story about man's best friend. And he tells this story about a dog who, prays at a shrine to become human and becomes human. And it's about, like, dealing with the complications of that, because he's still acting like a dog while in human form. So, run around naked and stuff. All that. And so Zenmai reflects as he's giving the performance. Look, figured I don't stand a chance anyway and decided to just kind of liven things up and enjoy myself. But then I saw Akane, how dedicated she was. And hey, I'm her senpai. I got pride. Time to stop being the underdog. I'm going to be top dog. The main character of the Zwiyun Prize. Which is not really flattered by the image that accompanies this, as he's acting like a dog while doing so, but it's okay.
He's trying something. He's giving it his all now with his big stupid braids.
I felt so bad, Quinn, because we are given an explanation of how the scoring works, which is each judge gives a score out of 100. But we're given an example score.
I thought this was his score the first time I saw it. And I was like, good job, dude. I was like, damn, there's only a 21-point differential between this and the perfect score. Like, everyone else is going to be, like, real close. And props to him. And then you're like, oh, no, never mind.
No. Then we get the cut further down the page of, like, hey, Judge 1, 91. Judge 2, 90. Oh, no, I can't see Shomei's score. Turn the page, 75, which is not bad, but
I mean, look, that passes you in a lot of classes sometimes, so
yeah, 256 out of 300 makes it very clear, however, okay, this guy's not gonna win. Yeah. Definitely not gonna win. So we are given, the judgments. The judges explain their scores, and the first one says, like, it was a great way to kick off the event, showed a lot of energy. The comedian in the middle says, like, yeah, your tipple was a bit one notes, but I thought it was fantastic overall. And then it goes to Master Shomei, and he says, I saw only a performer on stage and none of the story registered. In the scene where the man gives him a coat, you said, quit running around naked. That was not delivered in the style of the man running the employment office, but had the intensity of a Tsukomi punchline. In other words, you chose your words to maximize the audience's reaction. There were 6 other points at which I got the same impression. Jesus Christ. Dressing him down?
That is all. Click. And I just like, I don't, yeah, you're like, they don't play the mic sound, but God, you want that mic sound to be there.
He says, like, you did get the crowd on your side, but your performance was incomplete. And everyone's just like, oh. Yeah, okay, moving on.
Fair enough.
So, of course, yeah, Shomei is the one you got to watch out for, obviously enough. He's the only Rakugoka out of the 3 that are up there. The others are a producer and a comedian, so of course he's going to be the harshest. But Hikaru is up next, and she thinks, like, hey, look, Akane's trying to challenge this guy, so he must be tough. Karashi showed skill. Akane showed determination. Next, it's my turn. And we see that Iken is watching this display, of course, to see how his apprentice is going to do. And he says, give them a taste of Hikaru Arakawa's specialty.
Yeah. Cool chapter. Bummer. That series is going to be off for a couple weeks. We won't be talking about it. It's kind of a big bummer, but I assume we'll come back and Karashi will be right in the middle of his performance. It'll be very exciting, very cool.
Quinn sees that shot where it says intermission and is like, yes, intermission for weekly manga recap.
I get up and just leave the manga.
It's time for intermission. Come on, get up, everybody. Nothing's happening right now. Quinn, we've got one more series to talk about. Take us through One Piece, chapter
Yes.
1153.
1153, the birth of Loki. We get a cover page where Okiku and Yamato get to meet up. Good. I'm glad those guys get to be friends still. We are in the flashback of Prince Harold of Elbath, and we find out that basically, he was a really big, tall kid with the bloodline of ancient giants in him, and also from the royal family, and also he hung around with the coolest, toughest giants in town. So he was kind of an asshole. No one really knew how to discipline him or anything like that. There's literally a shot of him picking his nose, and then he launches the booger into the ocean, and it like knocks a whale out of the water. Like it explodes. This is like wildly funny and random to me. They just happened to go to a town where they're holding a fair where a giant is being used as one of the sideshow attractions. And Harold sees this, gets really angry. We don't even see it. We just see him sailing away after having destroyed the town. He's like,
"Oh, that's done.
Don't worry, I saved you." And the giant slaps him in the face. We get a very funny reaction shot as this is King Harold. He has never been, told no or disciplined in his life. And this giant claims like, "Hey, turn the ship around. I need to apologize to all the people who hurt back there." And basically, this woman, what is her name? Ida, she likes humans. She's like, "I was rescued by them. I washed up on their shore. I had nothing. They gave me a job. They're nice people. If you got to know them, you'd probably like them too." And Harold, now having been officially, kind of like smacked and now come to his senses, is like, "You know what? I agree. And we're also going to, help her rebuild this town." It's a whole thing. They celebrate. Ida basically teaches Harold to appreciate other cultures and how that's actually like a really good thing. So, that's all good. Harold comes back to Elbath and he's like, "Hey, I am going to atone for all my crimes." Like his crew was like, "This will never last. I bet this little fling will be nothing." Nope. He gets all the way to Elbath. He's completely changing his ways. Ja Rule actually says the line, "Meeting new people took him on a journey. Harold, no Elbath, is blessed with good luck." And we see that Harold traveled around the world. He's getting diplomats. He's trying to like make peace. He's working really, really hard at it. And he eventually has a baby with Ida. It's Haruden, very little Haruden. And he's like, "Cool, now that I have a son,
now we can get married.
I'm going to marry this woman." And someone comes in, like, "Oh, it's okay if you have a child out of wedlock. That's fine. Cool in our culture. Can't marry her. We need it to be somewhat of good bloodline." So this is your true betrothed, Harold, a woman named Estrid, who is a prestigious daughter. She has powerful
I've
ancient...
decided to change Elbath's flag to this red flag.
She is very beautiful. She studied geomancy and all these things. Ooh, very incredible. And she eventually is kind of noting like, "Oh, this room has such bad luck to it. We'll have to move a couple things around. Also, move all the treasury into my room. That way its energy can breathe into the hall where the king is." Wink, wink. She is very interested in all that. So while Harold actually went around and tried to stay true to his word and repair these relations, his wife, not super great, eventually does get pregnant though, and she asks to see the baby, and it's Loki, so he has the horns, and we see his eyes for the first time. They are black where it should be white, and they're kind of almost like cat's eyes.
What a cute baby.
Honestly, cute baby. But Estrid, a very vain, shallow person, screams in horror, says, "That's no son of mine. Tell everybody the baby is stillborn. It's a monster." When baby Loki reaches up to the air, she instead grabs him and throws him off the side of the room until he falls all the way into the underworld.
Yeah, she rejects Spartans him.
Yes.
Just toss him away as a baby.
Yes. She immediately begins packing as well because she's like, "I never want to bear another child. I am going home. I'm taking all these jewels and stuff." But there is someone, one of the guards comes and says, "Ma'am, down in the underworld, and we get an image of baby Loki crawling his way back up the mountain, of the tree, rather. We could see some bodies of, like, killed animals down in the underworld.
Admittedly, if you did this and the baby did that, I feel like you would see, I told you.
Oh, yeah. If it was covered in blood climbing this thing, you'd be like, all right, hold on. There might be some truth
all right,
to
maybe
this.
It was a monster.
The baby might be a monster. It is noted that after this, Queen Estrid fell ill. She's demanding that the child be removed because there is a prophecy that one day King Harold will be killed by his old son. Harold, to his part of the story, is just too busy right now. Basically, like, the world government keeps interfering in his plans to bring, like, democracy and diplomacy and peace to everybody. There is a cut over to Ida, who's like, oh, hey, can I see the baby too? He's your brother. And Haruden's like, well, he's not your son, so he's not my brother. And she basically is like, oh, you're even sweet like that, but that's actually a kind of bad way to think about it. I would probably have corrected that out of him. But the end of the chapter is the text that all of the misfortunes that would fall upon Elbath would be known as Loki's curse.
Yeah, so you were right about the whole, woman fixing Harold. At least we got through it quickly, Quinn.
Sure. I think we're still going to get some time in it. I believe, notably, we haven't seen Ida in the current timeline, so things may not go great for her in classic One Piece mom fashion. But that said, I did not dislike this chapter as much as I was going to when I first started reading it, and I was like, oh god, they are just going to have him fall in love and immediately be fixed by this one woman's, like, compassion. So I'm very curious about that. I will say Loki reaching up and being rejected is cool. The notion that this baby started climbing the tree to get back up is so fucking metal. I love I love hardcore shit like this. It makes no sense, but it's so fucking cool. This baby just crawling up. Oh, so good.
Yeah, that definitely turned things around when we moved on to the stuff with Loki, and we got all this stuff like, oh, so this guy's just been rejected since the moment he was born. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Starting to make a lot of sense why he is the way he is.
And also makes you curious about, some of the stuff that we know about him in terms of, like, hey, he seemingly does have a friend that he cares about and that cares about him. So wondering about that and what makes that such a singular thing for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Just everything. This image of Loki climbing up the cliff covered in blood makes this entire chapter worth it for me. Also, I do kind of like Ida in terms of she is different looking from a lot of One Piece women.
Yes. I mean, yeah, she definitely does not. I can't even remember the name of Rebecca's mom. I don't remember. I just remember her. I remember looking at her and being like, that's not me. This is egregious. I do appreciate that she does have a different design. Though I do think maybe this is one of those times, I wonder if there was a version of this chapter that was even longer, that was, like, split into two, because it did feel like Oda was kind of rushing himself through. Like, we don't see the destroying of the town. We don't really get to see her and Harold ever talking all that much beyond their, like, initial thing. Yeah.
In either case, Ida or
Estrid, yeah.
All right, well, that's it, though. So, Quinn, can you tell me what your favorite chapter this week was and who your MVP is?
I think my favorite chapter has to be... I'm going to give it to Blue Box. I think it was a really, really good chapter this week. I like Ayame's struggle. I like the moment of her, like, staying in line and being like, what am I even doing here? Like... all those little details. It was fun. It was good. And my character of the week is going to be Loki. Crawling up the tree, covered in blood as a baby. It's a hardcore move. Gotta respect it.
Yeah, I am going to 100% echo you on both counts.
Oh, wow.
Blue Box was definitely the chapter that I was the most invested in every turn that happened this week. I was going through it going like, God damn it, just talk to each other. God damn it, just be a better boyfriend, damn it. And then we get the reveal at the end and they're like, oh shit, is it happening between Ayame and Kyo? What's going to go on between them? And then, yeah, like you're not going to beat that image of Loki climbing up the mountain. Although I will say that there were some nice moments in addition to that. I feel like if I could give a technique an MVP, it's going to be the tank. But that's not really a character currently.
We have to wait. End of the year awards. There's a chance for it. Right. Ichi the Witch, one chapter of the week from our audience, and Ayame from Blue Box, one character of the week.
All right, that's going to do it, everyone, for Weekly Manga Recap. We're going to keep on going through Evangelion and get to it soon enough. And we will talk with you guys next week. We will be recording the show once again on Wednesday evenings, 7:30 Eastern Time is about when we'll start. If you want to know exactly when it goes live, you can join our Discord. It'll be linked wherever this gets posted. It'll also be posted up on BlueSky. Weekly Manga Recap, Rolo T, Nick F Time, all our accounts. There's also WMR Votes, where you can follow along with the MVP and favorite series voting in the Google Talk, which will be linked in the Discord and other places as well. Yes. We are on YouTube. Video versions have an opening sequence by Malajack Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar. Occasionally also have title cards by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out by searching for Steve Man Art. It's posted in many different places. We are also in podcast audio form on Spotify, iTunes. Everything is collected on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com if you want to just go through all the archives stuff. And we have even more on Patreon. If you want bonus content, you can become a $5 backer and get access to the bonus episodes. Patreon.com/weeklymangarecap.
Yes.
That's going to do it.
That is going to do it. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Do we have like a funny thing we want to say before we leave?
We never have a funny thing to say before we leave, Quinn. We're not funny. We don't have humor.
Oh, well then we should do like something educational for people to leave on.
I've never heard a laugh track after any joke that we have done. Therefore, we're not funny.
Damn. What about, hold on, wait. What about that one time we did a live episode at MagFest and that person fell asleep in our front row?